Hey friends, it's your boy Brett here, and it's time for some sleep talk. Did you know a quality night's sleep helps you prevent burnout, make better decisions, and improve your memory? It's true. To design a better mattress, Lisa has leveraged 30-plus years of experience and hundreds of hours of testing to develop the perfect mattress for all body shapes and all sleeping styles. Through Lisa's 110 program, they'll donate one mattress for every 10 they sell, and together with the Arbor Day Foundation, Lisa plants one tree for every mattress sold. Plus, Lisa's got some summer savings. Do not miss these summer savings. You can get $160 off a Lisa mattress at lisa.com/bombcast. That's LEESA.com/bombcast.
Hi, it is Tuesday, August the 21st, 2018. You're listening to the Giant Bombcast. Gamescom is starting.
Yeah.
In Europe.
That's right.
People have been drunk for days now.
Yeah. Getting good and lubricated.
Yes. I feel, you can tell it started because there's slightly more pictures of beer on social media than there normally is.
Yes. And to bolster our Gamescom coverage, we have brought in a real live European. Gary Whitta.
Live from the EU.
For now.
What's left of it. Yeah.
For now. You're not
right.
not for much longer.
Not for much longer, no. As a Brit, not for much longer, sadly.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I must say, you guys have probably the funkiest intro music of any podcast that I've been on. I like it a lot.
I thought you were going to talk about the smell in here. I'm sorry.
Funky smell, funky pot.
I'm you should come to my office. I'm nose blind to bad smells at this point.
You've been marinating in it for a while.
For a long time.
That's not a very great sounding. You should come to my office. I don't smell a thing.
You should come to my office and smell that if you want some bad smells.
That's the work at home lifestyle.
Yeah.
So no one's but you didn't send anyone to Gamescom this year.
No. I don't think any representative of the site has ever been to Gamescom. Have we ever?
I bet Patrick went to Gamescom once. That seems like something he
No, I
would
mean
have done.
while he was here. I went in I think 2007.
Yeah.
But that was before this.
But Jeff and I were just talking before the show about how, like, unless you want to do the beer drinking and the carousing and the social aspect, there's not really a terribly pressing reason to actually go be there, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've got multiple publishers saying, like, hey, come by our office and check out our Gamescom lineup across the street.
Right.
Yeah.
At this point. So
yeah, definitely. And I think you could say the same thing about some chunk of E3 where, the best place to cover some of those shows ends up being from home, where your gear is and all that other stuff, because it's going to be a series of press conferences and trailers and all that sort of stuff. It ends up being, the interviews and some of that other stuff, or like the vibe of the event ends up being the thing you really miss out on. And some of the hands-on stuff, but with Gamescom falling right between E3 and PAX, there are opportunities to see most of those games elsewhere. So, like you were saying, was like 2 or 3. I feel like this is the most companies we've had having pre-Gamescom events to say, like, hey, come by and see a thing. Mm-hmm. I think Ben can talk about one of those things in an hour and a half.
I've got
middle of the show.
Alarm.
Drop.
I'm just gonna start screaming about video game.
Mark your calendars.
I've seen, I think, more pictures of beer and cathedrals than I have video games in terms of like the Instagrams and Facebook posts. And that seems to be, again, the real reason to go. The only reason to go is if you want to have the feeling of really being there.
There's a
zip
line,
spinny.
Yeah, there's a zip line over the Fortnite booth, I'm told.
Okay. So you can drop in on.
So you can drop.
Oh,
checks out.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's clever.
Yeah.
What is convention food like overseas?
I've seen a lot of pictures of hot dogs and related sausagery. So far.
Do you think in Germany, like, even the worst convention hot dog is probably better than the best one you would get here?
I'm sure.
Well,
they're not even hot dogs; they're real sausages.
Or like the worst convention hall beer is probably still better in Germany than the finest microbrews in the US.
Also, they're big over there.
Yes,
like you're ordering it by the liter.
Like a 2 pint stein.
In some cases, yeah.
Yeah, like a giant stein.
Here's the thing, though: there's no such thing as a bad hot dog.
Oh, I would beg to differ.
No, I agree.
What are your criteria for a bad hot dog?
I mean, you just
what can go wrong?
One might make you sick. That's the only thing I can think of. But that's an after-the-fact thing you're dealing with.
That's
I
not
mean,
the hot
in
dog's fault.
moment-
That's the bacteria.
Exactly.
It's so processed though.
I've had
think-
a hot dog where at the time I knew it was going to make me sick.
And you ate it anyway.
Yeah, and it was
Exactly.
no.
Was it from
I
7-Eleven?
needed the
How
food.
much was the hot dog?
$1.99.
Okay, that'll make you sick.
I think part of
And
the problem.
I won't eat like a boiled hot dog after that.
Oh no, I like a good boiled hot dog, like out of a street
No.
cart.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What I mean,
It's gonna be grilled
there's-
now.
I think part of the problem with the evolution of hot dogs recently has been how they just adorn them more and more, and they pile more and more stuff on top of them. And go, oh, here's like a New Orleans style hot
Yeah,
dog. It's
they're
like you
very
can't even see
regional
the
now.
wiener
Yeah.
underneath all the shit that they piled on top of it.
Yeah, I had a hot dog. I forgot what they called it, but it was covered in blue cheese and fried onions. And at that point, it just felt like I was eating.
See, that actually does
Blue-
sound pretty
It
good.
was tasty, but it wasn't a hot dog.
But
it
also,
was
yeah,
just a
this-
mound of blue cheese and
Right.
fried onions
If
with
I'm-
a little bit of meat under it.
If
What
I'm
would
not
it- what
seeing
would
the
it-
wiener, I'm not having a good time.
Exactly.
It's so true in
Thank
so
you.
many walks of
Yeah,
life.
it's a little long for a podcast title, but I guess we can make it.
What would a true hot dog purist tell you is should or should not be on a hot dog?
Mustard,
Ketchup.
No ketchup.
no
way.
ketchup.
Ketchup.
See, I feel like a
so you've lost
purist
me
would
right
be a-
away. Ketchup
right.
on a hot dog seems pretty
That is
straightforward.
all
Standard
I.
fare
That is
for
typically
me.
all I will put
Yeah,
on a hot
I'm
dog.
fine with a good ketchup mustard.
I like
mix.
ketchup and mustard because
Yeah.
when they mix
But
together, they create some magic.
I feel like the true connoisseurs are like ketchup. No.
a true so a
can't have
true
that.
connoisseur would say no
I
ketchup on
feel
a
like
hot
it's
dog.
like
I guess so.
mustard, onion, and maybe relish.
Okay.
And then you're pushing it at that
I
point.
was with you up until the relish.
My favorite
Too
kind of
fancy
hot
for
dog is
me.
if you go to they have them here down by Union Square in San Francisco. But if you go to and it's copying the New York style, where you get it's a really long thin wiener that has that skin that snaps when you bite into it.
Yeah.
And
Some grease
And the-
shooting out.
and I don't put ketchup on it, but there's basically a ketchup-based spicy onion relish that they put on top of it. That
sounds
to me
good.
is my favorite kind of hot dog. I don't know if a purist would balk at that, but that's what I want from a hot dog.
My favorite dog of the last few years was that time we went to Dog City. We got those hot dogs.
In
with
What is
Seattle?
Dog City?
Yeah.
with the cream cheese on them.
Yeah.
It's the Seattle dog. I forget what else is even on there because the cream cheese just kind of
Yeah.
overpowers
Was,
everything.
was Dog City a cart or a restaurant? I can't even remember anymore.
It was a state
It
of
was
mind.
very late at night.
It was a
You were
state of
so
mind.
hopped up on hot dogs, you couldn't even remember where you were.
Hopped up on something.
You were hot dogged out of your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went dog crazy in Dog
the
City.
dog flu.
A man showed up and tried to sell us CDs. I remember that much.
That's where Dog City came from.
Yeah, that's right. We were yes, he was selling the CD that said Dog City on it.
I would
and-
say this: if you were going to write a kind of a constitution or a declaration of hot dogs,
Yeah.
I would say one of the and there's your mileage may differ, but for me, here's one of the things that I would say a good hot dog should have. You should be able to see both ends of the wiener out of both ends of the bun, sticking out both ends of the
Hard
bun.
More wiener than bun is
Yes,
essential.
lengthwise there should be more wiener than bun.
Yes, absolutely.
If it's just a big fat kind of bratwurst type sausage
We
that
hold
disappears
these truths
inside
to
the
be
bun,
self-evident.
we hold these truths to be self-evident that not all hot dogs are created equal.
This is a little controversial, maybe, but what do you guys feel about steamed buns? See, I think it
They
takes
steam the buns.
Doesn't that just
a
make
lot
it
of places
soggy?
will like do a little very light steaming. I agree. See,
That's
for
what
me,
Costco will
it
do,
just
yeah.
falls apart kind of in your hands, especially if you get some
It
sauces up
sticks
on
to
there.
the wiener also.
Yeah.
You don't
What,
like
what
that
I
weird
what I would do
residue.
is open the bun and put it inside down on the grill.
Oh yeah,
for a minute or two.
that's,
grill it a
that's
little bit.
classic.
Some people like now to split the sausage down the middle and put that flat face down on the grill. That way it gets cooked. They'll tell you it gets cooked through better that way.
I remember I went to a fancy restaurant with my grandpa when I was very young, and of course I didn't want anything on the menu, but they're like, "Oh, we can do a hot dog for you," and just like take a sauce. They sliced it in half and put it, grilled it, and it came in a really nice like a roll, like a French roll instead of
Okay.
a bun. And I felt like the fanciest motherfucker on the planet. I was like, "This is the highest class hot dog I've ever seen." I was like 7, and it blew my mind. I've still never hit that hot dog high. I've
Yeah.
been
Like
chasing
eating it
ever
pinky
since.
out.
But you were saying you don't like it when they fish the hot dog out of the hot water on the hot dog cart.
I've had some bad experiences with boiled hot dogs, and I think
Yeah.
that's carried through.
Do you ever bob for him?
No.
Oh.
Should I?
I feel like
Just
that'll
coming
bring-
out with like a scalded face.
Yeah.
But it was worth it.
I got this hot dog. Take me to the hospital.
Your face is all blistering up, but you've got a hot dog.
But I like a good
got the hot
char on the hot dog as well. If it's on the grill and you get a little bit of that char on the edge, it's not too bad. I prefer it over boiled.
I just
all
like. I
I'm
have a
saying.
very fond. Maybe I've just happy memories, fond nostalgic memories of like a classic kind of New York Times Square vendor cart hot dog. That to me is a hot dog.
I think for me, it's been a very long time since I've had a hot dog to the point where I'll take what I can get.
Yeah.
Like, do you have a hot dog
Should go to
on
that
you?
place
Like, let
that's
me.
like a block down. It's not bad.
Yeah,
What's up, dog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. What's up, dog? Is they do it pretty well.
I'm telling you,
over
at
there.
E3, they've got those bacon wrap dogs that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
food carts outside sell.
All night.
Oh yeah.
The savior.
Sometimes-
For years.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes they're my go-to.
Sometimes
man.
nothing else will
Man,
do.
I don't even deal with the food trucks. I'm
do you like
just
a movie?
give me
Do you
the
like a
food
movie
carts.
hot dog?
Yeah,
No.
No.
absolutely.
Because they probably boil those.
No,
Probably.
they
No,
come on-
they're
they're on
rollers.
they're on the
Oh,
little
the
rollers.
rollers.
7-Eleven style.
Movie
Yeah.
hot dogs feel like they were
Yeah.
genetically, they were like born out of a single cell of another hot dog. There's something so scientific and artificial
They've
about them.
perfected the
Yeah,
genetic art of the
exactly.
hot dog.
It's-
Yeah,
and it is perfect.
it's like every movie hot dog.
perfect.
Yeah.
Every hot dog you've had from a movie theater is literally genetically exactly the same.
Yeah.
You just keep eating the same cloned hot dog over and over.
I think you just came up with a reason for me to go back to the movies. Man.
You get me two sizes now as well. You can have a medium size. If you go to, I think, Century Theaters, they have these. I think the Eisenberg is the brand.
The Eisenberg.
And you can get either a regular one or like a quarter-pound giant hot dog, where it will stick out both ends of the bun, which is what you want.
I always eyeball the hot dogs at the convenience store near my house, and
geez.
they've got it's rollers. It's the
Is
same.
it a 7-Eleven?
No,
or?
it is.
Okay.
It is not even a 7-Eleven.
AM,
Is it like a
PM,
mom and-
whatever.
No,
like a
it is
mom and
it
pop
is an
place?
off-brand. I don't think it's quite a mom and pop place, but I don't know what the deal with it is. And they've got a variety. You know, they've got a variety in sizes, but also like here's the
Spicy bite.
Yeah, the big Bahama or whatever it's called. It's darker and a little wrinklier, but it's
Comes
got a
in onion
spice to
rings.
it. It just looks like a gigantic Slim Jim or something at that point. And
Yeah, because you know it's been there a while.
yeah, exactly.
Rolling around
Oh, and
endlessly.
I bet it's great. I look at it every time
I bet
and
you
go,
could snap
should...
it in half.
Oh yeah. Oh
That's-
man,
That same hot dog has been there for 7 years.
it only gets better.
Just turn
Every-
it.
every-
At that
every
point,
day
at
it
that
gets-
point, you should just get it out of pity.
yeah. Let me
Just
get
put the hot dog out of its misery.
I'm gonna walk in there and be like, can I get the do you have the Big Bahama 18 here? Can I get that like properly aged?
Aged, yeah.
They put it out. You like take a little bit in your mouth and spit it out.
Swish it
Yeah,
around.
it's like, oh,
It's like
$200.
one step above gas station
$200.
sushi.
Oof, wow, that's a line I will not cross. That's
Well, there's no coming back unless you've got a lot of free time in your future.
yeah. That was always
No obligations.
that was always an E3 thing. I remember the GameSpot video team got way into. There was a gas station near the convention center,
Okay.
and they've built up that area a little bit to have a few more restaurants and places to eat around there. But back before that, especially on the setup days for E3 when nothing else was really open,
They would go to the gas
they
station.
would go to the
to get
gas
food?
station and get gas station sushi.
Oh
On a
my
work
god!
trip.
And
That's-
on a work trip, right?
That is dangerous.
Before, like this is like 2 days before the start of E3, they're taking their lives into their hands.
Yes, they are.
What a rush though to go get gas station
Yeah.
sushi
Yes.
and then expense it.
Right.
Then you know you're living large.
That's right.
Put
It was
that on
definitely
expenses.
Like, oh yeah.
I'm gonna be young forever, and then just rolling whole rolls into your mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Just,
I mean, I'll eat almost anything. I am a trash can, but I got to think that gas station sushi is you are taking your life into your own hands.
Really pushing it.
You're really playing Russian roulette.
I
But
figure
the
it
rush.
has to be.
Again, what a way to go!
Yeah.
What a rush!
If that
It's
had to
that
be-
and being chased over a cliff by cops, like in a police chase. It's like the only two ways to go.
I feel like one leads to the other.
well,
Yeah, you
both
start at the gas station.
both result in large explosions,
Right.
just of a different kind.
Oh boy. So Gary,
Yes, Brad.
what toppings are on your video game hot dog?
Oh my goodness, that might be the king of all segues.
So help me out here. Somebody help me with this metaphor.
Are you,
Ketchup is the double jump of hot dogs.
Are you asking me what kind of video? No, the ketchup is like the wall jump.
Okay.
Hmm.
You think
You think?
double jump's a little too advanced? You think maybe that's like a?
Well, I'm still having a problem with the theory that ketchup is not considered a base ingredient of a hot dog.
I
But-
feel like the thing you hear from true hot dog aficionados is ketchup is a child's topping. It's a little too sweet for a hot dog. Is what the kind of the pushback I've seen. I like ketchup, but I definitely feel like the purists out there just think.
Do you ever put onions on a hot dog, like diced onions?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I always feel like whatever they offer you at the movie theater, those are considered the key condiments. And you,
Right,
at a movie
they
theater,
wouldn't have them if it wasn't like a common thing.
exactly.
right?
At a movie theater,
Limited
you get
space.
ketchup, mustard. Sometimes you get little diced up onions. Relish is always there.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if you go into a really fancy pants theater, jalapenos.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I think
Which is great on popcorn, by the way.
You put jalapeno in your popcorn.
The juice of the jalapenos on the popcorn is fantastic.
And sometimes they will present the pump cheese as an option both for the nachos and the hot dog, depending on what kind of life you want to lead.
Yeah,
Right.
there's some places that just have like butter stations I've seen
Yep.
just out in the hallway. Like, here's a butter station if you need to re-butter your popcorn.
I know,
and
yeah.
you put
Most
butter on
places,
anything.
they'll ask you if you want butter, but then they'll do it. I'd rather be in control of my own butter. Or it should be like the Parmesan cheese guy at the Olive Garden, and you get to say,
Say when.
Just keep going, man.
You're just-
keep going until the popcorn is
I'm
floating
not even
in that
looking
butter.
at you
Yeah.
while you're doing this because I know you're not done. I'm over here. Just
Yeah.
keep it going.
I'm gonna go pick out some other stuff.
Yeah.
What
And
you
when I
really-
come back, we'll talk about when you can stop squirting the butter.
Actually, what you really need to do is make really uncomfortable eye contact with the guy the whole time he's doing it, just to make sure
nodding
he
your
doesn't
head.
stop.
Try and make
Yeah.
it like a really
Just
intimate moment.
Stare him down
between the two of you. That's
make
right.
sure,
Yeah.
Make sure he keeps going.
Pump it slow.
Keep going, Ron.
Keep pumping it.
Yeah,
I know you have more. I know you have more in
Yeah.
the storeroom. Don't tell me you're running out.
make a point of glancing down at his name tag before you say his name. Yeah, it's really big time. So what have you been playing, Gary?
What have I been playing? So the topics on my video game hot dog recently have been my wife and I have been playing a lot of games together. Actually, we recently finished Detroit Become Human, which I actually really enjoyed. Okay. I don't know what the consensus was in this room.
Did anybody here
I
play
don't
it?
think any of us played it.
I had a lot of people
Do
kind
you
of
like
scare
those
me off
kinds
from
of
that game.
games?
I have not enjoyed
I have not.
David Cage's work.
I
up
like
to this
watching
point.
them.
I would say it's
in
by far the
theory?
best game that he's done, but it's still very much a David Cage game. And so if you don't like them, you probably won't like this. This will not be the game to change your mind.
Yeah.
But if you kind of liked Heavy Rain, and you kind of like Beyond Two Souls, you'll love this because I feel like he's finally got to a point where he's gotten very good at what he does with those kind of
Doing
games
that.
now.
Yeah.
It looks
One would hope.
phenomenal. I mean, just aesthetically, it's absolutely gorgeous. I would say that from a storytelling point of view, and this will not surprise anyone in this room, but it kind of hits all of its thematic points with a fucking sledgehammer. It's not a subtle game narratively. It's a game about android freedom, and there's a lot of kind of racial subtext in there that is not, I would say, terribly sensitively handled
Not
or
very
handled
delicately.
or handled. It's not that it's insensitive. It's just that it's a bit like, we get it, dude. Yeah, these people are oppressed. And
No, the robots represent racism.
I get it. Oh my god! It's like,
Oh, no.
and they keep hitting it over and over. But it is, for having said that, as if you just want, it's got some thrilling, stunningly good, well executed action sequences. There's one particular character, this android called Connor, who I came to really, really like and became one of my favorite video game characters of this year. And I found out that he has a lot of there's a whole Connor army out there of people that really, really, really like this character, like to an unsettling degree. But I enjoyed it thoroughly. So we played that. What else have we been working through lately? Still finishing Moons in Mario Odyssey. There's always one more thing to do in that game. My wife recently finished, so finally got all the way through Horizon Zero Dawn, which was just a fantastic game. We're not always necessarily playing like the latest stuff, but when you're working through a backlog, it's often kind of like you feel like you're living 6 months behind everyone else. But the game is no less fun just because you're playing it after everyone else got through with it. So we're a little bit behind. And there's one other game that I know we've been playing a lot recently. I'm trying to remember. Go around the room and I'll come back to the last one that I know that I've enjoyed, but I'm blanking on it right now. But Detroit has been, I think, the game that we've been playing the most, and I really did enjoy it.
Cool. Jeff?
I started messing around. We got our hands on that limited edition PlayStation 4 last week. We shot a video. It was up on the site.
Oh yeah, I saw your unboxing video.
Yeah, it's the best unboxing video in the game. We took it out of that box.
Yep. We
You
looked
took
at
it. You
Boom.
you took it the fuck out of that box.
That's right. You could not say at the end of that video,
There was no
wow,
way that it
those
was-
people left that in that box.
There was no way it was still in the box.
Did
by
you,
the end
did
of
you
that
also
video.
take out like the power cords?
The what?
No, we didn't.
Oh no,
Jeff.
You did not fully unbox.
It was an unboxing of the console, not of the accessories. We took the camera out of the box. I think we went above and beyond.
Okay, all right.
This is going to be the old man speaking now. Just on a general level, do you get unboxing videos? Do you understand the appeal of them? Because clearly you did it because your audience, you know that your audience will enjoy seeing that. Do you understand the appeal?
I think
I do. People like to live vicariously through others.
Yeah.
You know?
And I get like toy unboxing
Yeah.
to a certain extent of like, hey, let's look at the build quality of this action figure or transformer or something like that. Like I think I get that. Electronics, I don't know. For me, I need to be doing it because with electronics, you get that chemically plasticky smell that really is the thing that makes it all click.
Actually, unboxing something is always exciting. Like I was watching the kind of funny unboxing of the of the $500 million limited edition PlayStation, and they made a big deal out of just peeling the plastic cover, the protective plastic cover off the sides of the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Because that is, anyone who's done that in real life, when you get the new iPhone or a new console or whatever, and you peel that plastic film off, it is a sensual moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a whole ASMR sub-community that's
Oh, my
just
goodness,
probably
yeah.
devoted to peeling off plastic.
It is very ASMR for sure.
Unless you're dealing with one of these lunatics who refuses to take that stuff off.
Oh, like the person that leaves the plastic on their sofa?
Long periods of time.
Well, for that PlayStation, you couldn't because it was wrapped all the way around in plastic. You would really have to do it, or you'd probably cook that thing.
We just got a new Dyson at home, and my girlfriend refuses to let me remove any of the stickers. Really? It's really upsetting.
Why does she not want the stickers off?
I don't know. You'd have to ask her.
It's like a hat, you
Because
know?
then it's less
Got to
new.
leave the sticker on the hat.
Yeah, then it's less new when you take all the stuff off.
I bought a couch when I moved into my place. It was empty, so I furnished it. I bought a couch, and it had tags on it, like average, like saying what the couch was made out of, microfiber, whatever it was. And I got it in my head, I'm gonna leave these tags on here, like Belle Biv DeVoe style. Leave the tag on the hat. This is gonna be the dopest couch in this entire neighborhood. And so it made it about 9-10 years. And then someone, when I was not around, cut the fucking tags off the couch.
Oh.
And I was like, thank you.
I always like that scene in Pee-wee's Big Adventure where he meets that guy that's on the run from, he's an escaped convict, and he said at one point Pee-wee says to him, like, what did you do? He goes, well, you know those safety labels on mattresses, do not remove? Well, I ripped that sucker right off.
Yeah.
But the PlayStation, just generally on unboxing, I hear what you're saying. This is what I find baffling, because every video inevitably
It's
has that
corny.
point. And yes, here's the HDMI cable.
Right.
And here's the twist tie that's keeping it in a nice, neat little loop.
I mean,
there is almost something hypnotic and ASMR about it, I guess.
But also, in this case, they made, 50,000 of these things?
Right.
Like most people are not going to be able to get their
They're
hands
not.
on
And
this.
so it is a vicarious thing.
The individual, like the look of the console, like, hey, it's this clear, it's this translucent thing. Like, yeah, it's pretty. Like, let's look at it and judge it to a certain extent on that front. But I think like when you remove it from that specific case, which I think is a case to maybe shoot a video of it being opened up.
Right.
I think generally unboxings are
and some things
really
are
just dumb.
Some things are revealed though. Like on the Kind of Funny video, I noticed that like, wow, it gets smudgy as people were handling it. Like it gets smudgy in a way that traditional PS4 doesn't. But I would say
Very
generally
high gloss, a different feel to the plastic on the controller too.
Yeah, it's the it's the first PlayStation or any console special edition in a while though that I've actually, I would say, like, aesthetically, I would put that on my, on my console. I'd put it under my TV. A lot of the Spider-Man one, I get it, but that thing is just going to stick out like a sore thumb. It's not what it's aesthetically is not going to sit well with everything else that I have. But there was the 500 million one with the little copper plate and everything. It looks kind of classy.
It's nice.
It looks nice.
And I think for me, so I ended up putting it through its paces to a certain extent over the weekend, because I think the big question we had coming out of it was, hey, these launch PS4 Pros are loud as hell. Like the fans spin up and it's just crazy.
Yeah, so they might actually have been through a couple of hardware revs since then.
So it is quieter. And it's hard to, I can't sit here and say, oh, that's definitely a big difference. Or, hey, maybe my launch PS4 Pro is so full of dust that it's just louder than normal.
Plus that 2 terabyte hard drive is nice to have.
You're just kind of idling? Like, how did you like A/B tests?
So the loudest thing I've done lately on a PlayStation is No Man's Sky.
Okay.
There are just areas of like space stations or whatever where the fan would just spin all the way up and not stop until I warped out of that area. So I played a bunch of No Man's Sky and went to all those areas and let it sit. And you'd hear it, I'd get up close and listen to it spin up and go, okay, it's kind of, this is the part that is taxing it. But it was definitely quieter.
Interesting.
Which was cool, because that thing gets really, really loud. And
I never noticed that when I'm playing.
Cool.
With a console game, I never notice a console getting loud over the sound of the actual, the game audio. when I play a PC game, I have a pretty chunky PC at home, and it sits right under the desk where I'm playing. And I play with headphones because, man, that thing sort of vacuum cleaners. My goodness. I mean, it sounds like I'm vacuuming my room when that thing is really working.
My PC was supposed to be quiet. Like, the case is padded in a
That's
way.
what
That's
I was
supposed to be a
told.
quiet
This was one of the
case.
quieter PCs, but it's
And-
still like a rocket launch.
And lately, it's even gotten worse. So it got a rattle to it.
Oh,
and I ended up
geez.
having to go in and tighten the fans back down.
Were you able to locate it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I tightened it down and it stopped and then it started again. And I'm like, well, I tightened those screws. They're still tight. I don't know what the fuck to do now. But it still is the case. And I feel like it wasn't like this at launch, or not at launch, but when I first got the PC, it seemed like it was not this way. And I've blown dust out of that case multiple times, but it just seems like the fans spin up more often. And it'll do it for stuff like hard drive access. Like when I download large games from Steam, it'll get about 30 gigs in on a 90 gig game, installing to an SSD, and it'll just light up. It'll just completely spin all the way up.
Crazy.
Well, if you're downloading games from Steam, it's probably just chock full of Bitcoin miners.
Yeah, I guess at
That's-
this point.
there's your problem.
But then also playing games, even games that are not necessarily graphically taxing, like the case fans spin up in a way that just doesn't seem like it always did that. Or I'm just not really sure what to make of it.
Yeah, I usually
Depending on
build
the-
my own PC, and on this last one, I just bought a pre-made one from Origin because they're a good maker. But one of the promises that was made was like liquid cooled. This is going to be quieter than the average PC. My first liquid cooled system, still really noisy.
Yeah.
And the rattle. Like I'm kind of nodding my head as you talk about like the rattle because I've been through all of these things. I used to edit PC Gamer magazine for many years, and so I've seen it. I've seen it all, and I'm still an advocate for PC gaming. It's still, I think, in many ways, the best place to play.
Totally.
But it will fight you. PC gaming will fight you every inch of the way.
You
For
gotta suffer for
every
your art.
iota of enjoyment, you will have to earn it. It's never as plug and play as you hope it's going to be.
I haven't
you,
had
like,
to
lower
move a
your
jumper
standards.
yet, in
Right.
about 10 years. So
Right.
it's gotten so much easier than it used to be, at least.
I've lowered my standards and my expectations, and I've been thoroughly pleased with it because I've went for that spec of 1080 60. I'm not going 4K. I'm not doing anything more than 60 frames per second, and everything's been running great. And I'm still rocking that old like 980 video card. That's been great for me. But there was a time for sure when I was like underpowered and like thinking, oh, do I have to overclock my video card now?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
and just dealing with that was a nightmare.
Yeah, and stepping through voltages and all that other stuff. Like I get why people do that. The same reason why people used to, and still do, like, build their cars and change the exhaust and all that other stuff. Like that type of tuner culture in cars. Like I get why it exists on the PC.
Totally.
Because you're just like, I'm going to adjust the voltage here and get 3 more frames, and I've got diagnostics and numbers everywhere that I can look at and go, when I do this, this runs a little bit better.
I gave that a
For many people, that is
Yeah.
part of the experience.
Totally.
They love that.
Yeah, and that's not for me. Like I don't want to. That's too far for me. But like we built that PC that I have. We built it on a stream and whatever. I think building PCs is a good time. And
What's in there? What's in your current PC?
Oh, what is it? It's like a 7700K. It's a 1080.
Is it TI or no?
No, not a TI. It's like 32 gigs of RAM, 2 1 terabyte SSDs, and then an 8 terabyte drive for other stuff.
Similar
forget, were you
to what
liquid
I
cooled
have,
or-
and the problem with these, I'm sure we're going to talk about it later, but like the new 2080 the series that just came out, I look at that, and the system that I have at home with the amount of pixels that I'm pushing, I think it's like a 2K, one of those 2K monitors. It's a pretty good 27-inch monitor, and the 1080 that I have will crush anything I can throw at it easily at highest resolution and ultra detail. So I don't need I wouldn't even notice a difference, I don't think, with a 20 series, but I still want it. That's the problem with these things. I really enjoyed having a 1080 for the brief period of time when it was the best video card you could have.
Yeah.
Now that since the TI and now the 20s are coming out, even though I know that I probably wouldn't see an appreciable performance bump with $1,200 worth of extra video card, I'm still aware of the fact that I don't have the best kind of PC anymore, and it's a constant arms race.
So I made the change relative like a few months ago where I bought a G-Sync monitor.
Okay.
And it'll do 165 hertz instead of just 60.
You will see a difference with a G-Sync monitor,
Yeah,
I think. They are really nice.
And that turned me into a new kind of snob about stuff.
Oh, sure.
That like there's always a new way when you're building PCs. There's always something new to find and become slightly shitty about, and that was the next level for me.
If you have any kind of inferiority complex, PC gaming is not for you, I would say.
or maybe it is because then you just get into the weird like electronic dick measuring contests on Reddit and all this other stuff about like go all the way with it and like I put an ice block in this PC and now it does this. Yeah.
I actually had my first like real scare after building a PC. I built my first PC like 6 months ago when I can't remember when we did that stream, and I booted it up and I was getting nothing. It was turning on, the keyboard was lighting up, the mouse was lighting up, and I was just like, fuck. I'm okay at troubleshooting. Like if I get crashes or errors, I can kind of figure out what's going on.
Could you get into the BIOS? Like how far would it go?
It was just giving me nothing on my display. And so I was like, it's done. It's over. My PC's broken. It's completely broken.
End of an era.
Throw it in the
like
garbage.
Pacing around in circles in the living room. And then I was like, wait, maybe I just change the HDMI cord. And it was just a fucked up HDMI
Sometimes
cord.
it is that simple.
And the like amount of pressure that was off my chest, it was just like I got a call from the doctor saying everything's okay. It was just like, oh my god, like it was that easy for once. You hear,
But
all
you
these
feel like a
horror
total
stories.
dope that you missed something that simple.
Just literally like unplug it and try a different cord.
I used to keep this laptop in my office, and I would plug it into charge at night, and I would walk out of the when I would leave the office at night, turn out the light, go to bed, come back the next morning, and the laptop hadn't charged. And I tried every different cable, every different outlet, nothing would work. And it took the longest time to figure it. I was going to take it into Apple. There was a whole thing. I was ready to smash this thing. And then I eventually figured out that the outlet was connected to the light switch. And every time I walked out and turned out the light, I was also killing power to the outlet. And it was that simple. And I was very relieved it was such a simple fix. But boy, did I feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
computers will do that to you.
Totally. Yeah, that's there was a while there that I was blowing up motherboards and all this other stuff, and yeah, that you said pacing around, like there's something about a broken PC, and maybe that speaks to how much time I will spend in front of a computer, and maybe that's not a great thing. But the minute that thing breaks, I am fucking
we gotta
useless.
use it for work.
Like,
it's like
shit. Fucking, what am I gonna do? What is there a store I can go to right now to fix this? And there aren't. There's like a Best Buy near me. There's like a
Get me the
Staples.
nearest geek.
Yeah, and not necessarily to bring it to him to fix it. Like I'll go like most recently I smoked 2 hard drives, because of a bad cable that I had in my case that was just frying hard. Like smoke poured out of one of the hard drives, and I was like, okay, that explains why this other one stopped working. I should stop swapping cables around to figure out what's wrong because it's definitely not. But then it became like, oh, I need to replace this hard drive. Now.
Would your Desert Island system be a PC with all the myriad things you can do with it, emulation and everything else?
Absolutely.
It would be worth all the aggravation.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, sand would get in that case on Desert Island to be a nightmare.
That's true.
But,
if the tide comes in, you're in real trouble.
Yeah. But yeah, totally. It's the most versatile of the platforms. There are a lot of things you can play on it. There's a lot of things you can do with it. You could potentially use it to call for help. Hey, I'm on this desert island.
That's true.
If you didn't have internet, then DRM would prevent you from playing anything. So it'd be pretty kind of.
Let's just assume it's a desert island that has a fiber optic connection. You've got a gig.
Then why would you
bandwidth.
want to call for help?
Then I would get. Yeah, that's true.
That's right. That's the
You're
dream.
on a tropical
That's
island
the dream.
with internet and a computer and no people. Let's
Like,
just
okay,
hang out
I'm
for
here.
a while.
You just have to hope that no one ever finds you.
Yeah. Definitely a PC. Because especially at this point, it wasn't always this way. But so many PC ports are so good these days, and so much better than their console counterparts that, like, once you've got it up and running and once you've made the spend, you'd be crazy.
Once you've put in the effort to get everything loaded onto it, you basically have every game system ever made, right?
Well, yeah, except for so the thing you lose out if you just went PC would be exclusive console games. So
Right.
Your Horizons, your Mario Odyssey, that sort of stuff. Though,
Right.
well. Give it some time.
Again, give it some time, yeah.
That stuff seems to be happening at a more rapid rate these days. Of course, definitely would take the PC.
I feel like that's a contentious. I don't know why I feel like that's a contentious. To me, it feels like the obvious choice.
It just seems like a logical. Unless you're unless you are not technically minded and never want to be. Like, there's something about the convenience of a console that I totally get, and there are definitely games that I prefer playing on console, even though they're on PC. Because the competition is different. Like, I will always choose a console version of Call of Duty because I've come to prefer that specific shooter with a controller, and I play better there against other controller players than I would on the PC against other people with mouse and keyboard.
Are you saying that the standard of play is higher on PC?
Yes.
Okay.
I would yes, I would say that like people are better at aiming and shooting on PC because they have a more precise instrument at their disposal.
Right.
And so it changes a lot about the flow of some of those games that I think I prefer a controller and playing on console against other people with controllers for
Right.
some of those competitive shooters.
Right.
But that's really kind of the only case. You know?
Oh, that reminds me because I've been playing it on PC. Nidhogg 2. That was the
Yeah.
game that I was mentioning. I found that late. I never played the original Nidhogg.
It's very good.
wow.
And I didn't
They're
understand.
both very good.
I saw some screenshots and I'm like, really? It's just stick figures. What's the deal here? But then I got in. I got in on the second round because Nidhogg 2, the aesthetics were like, okay, I get this. It's more of kind of a 16-bit retro vibe. I can understand what this is trying to be. So I thought I'd give it a try. And I think is going to turn out to be one of my favorite games. I just love it's one of the most funny games to play and to watch.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. There's so much technique to it.
Is
Like,
there really?
yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
with the way
totally.
I play button mashing, it feels like every encounter is a coin flip.
I mean, yeah, you can play it that way, but
I think that's like the best thing about it, right? Just like anyone can get into it, and it'll give you back what you put in to a certain extent. Of like if you are willing to put in the work and learn all those systems and get better, like it starts to reveal more depth.
What's your favorite weapon?
I like the bow and arrow.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
I like
Controversial
throwing literally
Yeah.
throwing
Yeah.
the whole bow at the person.
Yeah.
But that's what I love about the absurdity of it. 'Cause that and over because we played a ton of. My dad was out here visiting over the holidays, and so we were looking for games that were easy to grok, like easy to understand, simple controls, and that you could play in a cooperative rather than competitive environment. And my dad, who's 70 years old, understands that his kid likes video games, but has never really have no idea which way to even hold a controller. But we got him down in front of Nidhogg, and I tell you the one that really cracked it for him that he loved was Overcooked.
yeah.
Loved it. And if you and we also played a lot of Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time, which is really
cool.
really a lot
Yeah.
of fun for if you played 3 or 4 player co-op. And it was amazing how much my dad was able to get into understanding like Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time is not an easy game for someone who's never played a video game to understand. But he totally was getting like when a station needed to be manned, he would run over there and do it. And it was magical to watch someone who's never. It's kind of like that Wii Sports moment that we all remember whenever. Oh my god, my grandpa is playing Wii tennis and seems to be really enjoying it because everyone knows how to swing a racket.
Has he ever served on a ship? Sounds like he likes to crew things.
Yeah, that might maybe that's
know.
what it was. But there was something really magical about. We played Nidhogg and we played because I was trying to think what are games that anyone could understand really simply. And the thing about I think what often helps is when you can map it one to one. Like everyone understands the Wii tennis thing. You swing the racket, we get that. Something like Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time was tricky because it's this weird circular spaceship and I can understand why you might not get into it, but everyone understands that to make a burger you need a bun, you need meat, you need lettuce, tomato, and so
Everything's on the screen.
everything's on the
It's just one little
screen, and so like you need to bring me and he totally got it. And the kind of games where you sit around the couch kind of screaming at each other, those to me are inherently the most fun. And Nidhogg 2 is like you constantly have a smile on your face while you're playing that game because it is just so silly. And the absurdity of it is, to me, a big part of the appeal. Even when you're just mashing buttons, I think you can get a lot out of a game like that.
It's even fun to watch. Like if you're
Oh
not
my
the one
God.
playing, if you're 2 other people are playing, you just have a great time watching
Yeah.
them fuck up and fall in holes and stuff.
So it sounds like he didn't necessarily play a ton of video games over the years. So what did he make of it when you kind of cracked into the writing about video games business way back when?
My parents were always very supportive of me about that. And nowadays, I think it's much, much easier to make the argument, hey, Mom, get off my back about playing video games. This could be my career one day. Now you can legitimately see how, you look at Fortnite streamers and people on YouTube. It's really, really interesting. My kid just had a kindergarten graduation. Well, she started first grade yesterday, but a few months ago when she graduated kindergarten, we had a big kindergarten graduation event where all the kids got up and they had to talk about what they had to just give a quick 20-second speech about what they learned in school that year and what they want to be when they grow up. Number one choice, YouTube streamer.
Wow.
Wouldn't doubt that.
And it's hard. When I was a kid in the 1980s, and I knew I wanted to pursue video games professionally, I was able to show my parents I want to be in a magazine like this one day, and that they were supportive of that. But it was very, very easy back in the day to look at a kid playing video games and thinking this kid's going nowhere. Now, if your kid's got some Fortnite skills, or has always got a little video game blog or whatever, you can think, no, maybe it's much easier, I think, for parents to look at their kids and say, you know what, maybe this is the career, and more than that, maybe we get to retire early if this kid blows up.
I think that kid is going to be an unboxer.
Yeah, that almost
I want to unbox things.
That almost sounds scarier in a way, because then you have parents that like inadvertently become like stage parents of just like, no, we're going to take you out of, and you heard stories like
parents paying for Fortnite coaching and stuff like that?
Yeah, or like, hey, like, we're going to let you drop out of school and focus on your Guitar Hero because we think that's where the money's going to be.
You need to play 2 hours of Fortnite a day every day when you get home.
And like at the time, like, when you were hearing stories about that, there was no esports Guitar Hero scene of the sort, but you'd hear that exact story and just like, what? Like, at least with Fortnite and I think esports is in a more legitimate place than it ever has been.
There's certainly more money behind it.
Yes, yeah. That's what I mean by legitimate. Is that money's actually making it out to players and not just sponsorship deals or whatever it is.
But still, only like 0.001% of all of them are going to float to the top and make a career out of it.
Yeah, it's
but
still
if you've
a huge
demonstrated some, like, you can tell when a kid is 5 or 6 years old. Like, there was a video that went viral recently of a little girl soccer player. I think it was somewhere in the Middle East, just owning like 3 or 4 kids and trapping and dribbling the ball and doing kind of tricks and scoring a great goal. She was 4 or 5 years old. You can tell at that age. I also remember, if you ever can YouTube it, go watch Tiger Woods on the old Bob Hope show when he was 4 years old, sinking 20-foot putts. And you can tell this kid's going to be a pro, and he was. And so if your kid's it's really interesting to think about. I'm still thinking about it in the point of view of the kid trying to convince their parents that they could do this professionally. But you're right, there probably are parents saying, hey, Johnny, you didn't put enough Fortnite in today. I feel like you need to play for a few more hours.
I was looking at your battle pass, and you're only level 37.
Put that fucking math book away and get back on the computer.
But no, like,
I don't want to work at this hot dog cart forever.
But the concept, yeah, that's right. I can't be putting cream cheese on a hot dog the rest of my life. But no, you're right. The concept of like esports stage parents, that's probably a real thing, and that's terrifying.
It must be, right?
It must be.
I mean, so like the internationals going on right now, the big Dota tournament, and there's a lot of player profiles where it's like, oh, we're going to talk to this kid and their family. And I would say it's like 50-50 at this point of parents being supportive versus non-supportive. It's like, oh yeah,
Did
like
you say 50-50?
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of these top level pros that they're interviewing, some of them are like, oh, I had to run away from home because my parents said they were going to cut me off from family fortune unless I became a doctor. But then you also got like, yeah, my mom is like my biggest fan, and she drove me to tournaments way back in the day. I was surprised by how many. I would think that it'd be like maybe 10-1 of like unsupportive to supportive. But I guess we are, like you were saying, seeing that shift of people understanding that this is a career choice.
In an age where you can make more money playing Fortnite than being a doctor, as a parent, again, that's an extreme case. But as a parent, I wonder if I can understand the 50-50 split, because I think a lot of parents are thinking, whatever makes him or her happy, right. and there's an aptitude there. This is the skill, and he can make a lot of money doing it. I mean, look, he lives in a nicer house than we do now. All of that is very valid. But I also kind of understand the parents going, come on, really? This is the career? Because I'm also thinking about the long game. I mean, a lot of these, so if you're someone like Ninja, obviously making a lot of money right now, and very popular and very celebrated in his field, but I hope he's got smart people around him telling him how to manage his money and thinking that this is probably not what you're going to be doing for 40 years, right? I mean, maybe it is. I don't know.
Like potentially 4 years from now that it could all be gone.
Fortnite could dry up, and then he fails to find the next game.
Whatever the next
he's
thing
good
is.
at the next game, or there's a billion ways that could go.
But even if you're not Ninja, even if you're like the 20th most popular Fortnite streamer, you're probably still making a decent chunk of change.
I imagine if you're in the top 20 Fortnite streamers, you're making more money than I am.
Yeah, but then at that point, like if you're Ninja, right? You're Ninja. You've got that brand that can probably carry you for some number of years.
He could be the fatality of his era. He could be taking his shirt off and branding
chairs, what have you,
graphics cards.
But
and
if you're like
cases.
number 20, that's a lot harder to like.
It's interesting to think about. Like if you're, let's say that you're a golf prodigy. Golf is always going to be around. That can be your career for 40 years if you can stay good at it. Yeah. If you're someone like Ninja or Dr. Disrespect or whoever it may be, whoever the top, I'm trying to think of some of the names of the other guys and I'm blanking right now. But if you are one of those top people, your popularity is inherently tied to the popularity of the game that you're playing. Like you said, what if Ninja isn't as good at the next game when Fortnite invariably is usurped by the next big thing? You better hope you get good at that too.
Yeah, I think that's you saw some of that with PewDiePie's kind of evolution or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, well, sure, yeah. where
Was he ever in a state of grace?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
maybe
about
not.
that.
Debatable.
Maybe not. But I feel like he got to a point where he was out there publicly saying like, heck, maybe I don't want to play fucking Minecraft every day. Maybe I want to branch out a little bit. Or, like the people that are like known for streaming a game, like what do they do when they're, even if it's a non-competitive game, like what do they do when they're completely sick of that game? But they're just like, well, this is literally my living. I can't necessarily get all these people to stay with me if I flip over to this other thing.
I mean, when I first discovered Ninja because I like to watch Battlegrounds. I was a PUBG watcher. I didn't necessarily want to watch. I won't necessarily follow. I stopped watching Ninja because he started playing Fortnite, which is a game that doesn't interest me. So I don't follow personalities. I follow the people that are good at the games that I want to watch. So for me, I like PUBG. So I will watch the top PUBG streamers. When Ninja went over to Fortnite, I just stopped watching him and I started watching whoever replaced him as the top PUBG streamer, which is like kind of
Will
Josh.
Smith.
Yeah, right. And so it's really, I guess it's analogous to like having a pro football career where the career is going to be short, right? Or a soccer player where you've only got maybe, if you're lucky, 10 good years where you're top of your profession, and then maybe you go into management or maybe you go into punditry or something like that. But you better make sure that you have smart people managing your money and that that you're not blowing all this stuff on ridiculous stuff, because the time is going to come when, I promise you, the time is going to come when this is not your career anymore, and it might be shorter than you think. And I don't know, maybe the likes of Ninja are in playing holographic VR holodeck Fortnite in 30 years from now and are still really great at it. Maybe that is the future. I don't know, but I feel I would be banking on that not being the case and making smart investments with my money while the sun is shining.
What do you think the average age for a Dota player, like a top Dota player, is? Because that ends up being so like APM focused, or just like you need to be fast in a way that in fighting games, I think to a certain extent maybe get this way, but less so.
I guess the range is like 16 to mid 20s.
Yeah,
24,
I would say
26.
like 18, 19 to early 20s.
That's probably the average.
Is probably the average.
And so
but do you think
you age
as
out of
you-
that super fast.
Well, do you age out of it? I mean, just in terms of like the
Certainly
physiology of it.
the community
Is your
certainly-
APM going to go down as you get older? Is
Like
your
how-
clicky
how-
finger just
how-
going to get slower?
How old was Fear when people were calling him old man?
Yeah, he was
28?
like maybe
Oh my
he like
God.
just turned 30
Yeah.
and had a
he was
kid,
he was
and he's
referred to as the
man.
old man of the scene.
But he was still
basically.
playing. Was he doing well?
He was on his way
He
out.
had an injury. He had a hand injury. So
Oh.
that's another thing. Like that,
Yep.
there's all sorts of weird new injuries, and just like being on a computer all day is not good for your body. Like you have to be constantly aware of, your stretching and stuff like that. Like there's, Smash players who break their hands because they're just doing so many things and they can't play the game anymore. Fighting games, I feel like, are a little more age like.
We were talking about recently. We were
forgiving.
talking about like how good is Daigo still?
Yeah.
And I think even when you shot that piece at Evo, I want to say you even asked Seth about it.
Yeah.
About the idea of just like, oh well, like something about it, like once you know the mind game aspects of it, the mental game,
Like how to
is
read
a
your
huge
opponent
part of it, reading
is
your opponent and
something
all that
that
other
just gets
stuff. Yeah.
better with
It
age.
seems preposterous, but I remember seeing somebody posted some pictures recently. I think it was a training facility in Europe for one of the pro Overwatch teams. Because the Overwatch teams are based by city.
Yeah.
And I think it was like one of the German, or it actually might have been like the London Spitfire, one of those teams. And they had a training facility that looked like an NFL training facility. And I think,
yeah.
because again, especially when you're sitting all day, and this is about as your clicky finger is about as energetic as you're getting. I would say there's as much as, if not more than, an imperative than with the traditional athlete to make sure that you're getting proper physical workouts and all your rub downs and icings and whatever it is that you may be
Catered meals, nutritious.
because you've got. I feel like if you're not doing that, there's going to come a point where one day you just slump over and die in front of your keyboard. Like you've got to get out and do. Because I know for someone like Dr. Disrespect, for example, spends 8 hours a day streaming, but I think he's in the gym for a couple of hours before he does that to make sure that he's actually still physically taking care of himself. And I know that Ninja will, every couple of games, will get up and dance around just to kind of move his body and make kind of a meme out of, now we're going to have a little dance party, kind of get up and, dance around with me, or stay hydrated. There's some of them have Twitch bots that will remind you to stay hydrated and things like that, because it does become an issue.
That's been a big thing for me lately, is like just overall, just like I really do need to be drinking more water. It's not just a dumb thing people say as a goof. Like,
Right.
Like when I,
Yeah, it's basic stuff.
yeah, and yeah, if you're trying to do those long stretches of streaming and all that other stuff, that's definitely, especially on a regular basis. That's absolutely something.
How did
you
we
gotta
even get
think
onto
about.
this topic? I don't remember.
Just
This has been a
esports,
very.
just esports and how weird it is.
Just kind of sitting back and seeing where this goes.
It's because from hot dogs to esports. I feel like it's been a good opening to the show.
That's kind of our thing.
the hot topics
Like
is
the
our
real
brand.
house.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, before we go to break, you can confirm that special PlayStation is in fact a PlayStation?
It is definitely a PlayStation.
Okay. You sure?
Is it the new PlayStation?
It came with firmware 555 on it.
Okay.
And
Is that as
new as it gets?
that's the current firmware, yeah. And yes, it has a 2 terabyte hard drive, and it is quieter. That to me, the actual detail worth knowing is it seems quieter.
Is the finish on the controller a little different as well?
Yeah,
How's that
it
holding
is.
up?
It seems like the same finish that's on the console itself.
Even
so
the
it has a different
even the
feel.
camera has the
I don't
a
think
different.
the camera doesn't.
camera looks
the
pretty
camera is
stock.
the same as the.
No, the camera is the kind of the one that I saw unboxed had like the same blue finish as
I'll
the.
pull it out and compare
Yeah,
it because
okay.
I feel like because we pulled it out on our world's leading unboxing video.
Did we?
And
I don't know if it was
Very-
translucent,
very
but the
thorough.
camera looks like it had that
Had a-
same kind of dark blue, kind of that kind of
really?
midnight
I'll
blue.
compare it to the
feel
other
to it.
camera that I've got because I didn't take it out of the box when I got it when I was going to set it up because I already had a camera set
You
up
didn't
on that
unbox
TV.
it?
Then it was not a
That's a
complete
different video.
unboxing. It was a partial unboxing.
It was
We
an
just said
unboxing
we were
of the
gonna unbox
console.
PlayStation 4.
I need to
Yeah.
get back
Not
to
the
that
camera.
thumbnail.
Go back. Yeah, if you could do
yeah.
another few hours of work on that thumbnail,
You know what would take some skill is putting all that shit back in the box the way that it came in. I would like to see reboxing,
Reboxing?
but actually
Yeah.
requires some skill.
like some proper regifting videos.
Yeah.
Of here's how to give a present to somebody
got a
else.
wall
Make
of,
it,
like,
make
tape
it look like it
rollers.
was
Yeah.
just here's how to loop up that HDMI cable just like new.
That just sounds like you're running scams about like here's how to put this back in the box with like a different PlayStation in here so you can take it back to the store or something.
Yeah, or if you want, if you're one of those eBay scammers that or Craigslist scammer that's like,
Yeah. Here's a box of rocks. Here's a way to make. Here's the precise number of rocks to put in this box to make it look like a PlayStation. Feels.
We use
way
4
like a
different types of rocks, so
Yeah.
you can find whatever works for you.
That's right.
Let's get a kitchen scale. Make sure it's exact.
yeah, that's right.
Weigh out these
Just feels
PlayStations on the
good.
triple beam.
Well, no, I mean there were eBay scammers for a while that were literally just selling empty boxes, right?
Yeah.
And they're making an argument. Hey, the picture was of a box. That's what I
And
said you were
they'll
getting.
put the word in.
Yeah, so
put the
as
word
seen,
box in
yeah,
the
yeah.
yeah.
The internet.
I love it.
It's a dangerous place.
Definitely.
All right, let's take a quick break and come back and talk about some other stuff.
Two shots.
Two shot. Whoa.
That's right.
To straight to the heart.
No, just straight down your throat.
Oh.
With Starbucks double shot.
Oh, that's a different kind of shot.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Support for today's show is coming to you in part from a Starbucks double shot.
The safer shot.
That's right. Starbucks double shot starts with bold Starbucks coffee, and it's blended with milk.
Oh,
That's right. It's got a smooth, creamy, and delicious flavor.
coffee and milk.
Uh-huh.
Those things are compatible.
Exactly. And then on top of that, it's enhanced.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like cybernetically enhanced?
No, well, it's got ginseng and guarana and B vitamins. You know, I maybe that will help you in your cyber endeavors.
Okay.
You know, but
As I attempts to become more machine than man,
yeah,
I'm going to need some pep.
that's right. You might need a little zip, a little zing.
Yes.
Double Shot is available in 6 delicious flavors.
Whoa.
Let's run them down.
Okay.
Number 1, mocha.
Aha.
Number-
That's like chocolate.
That is like chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, mocha is like a fancy word
Yeah.
for chocolate. Number 2, vanilla, which, vanilla, you can't go wrong with it.
Yep.
It's vanilla for a reason.
Yeah.
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 Number 3, hazelnut.
Whoa.
Yeah,
The best nut.
it's one
It's
of
definitely one of the best nuts.
It is when it comes to flavors for drinks. It is probably the best nut.
Yeah.
Number 4, white chocolate.
Mmm.
Still fancy, but using the word chocolate in there.
Sure.
That's right. Number 5, coffee. Hey, it's coffee.
Coffee flavored coffee.
Yeah, maybe you just want that coffee flavor
Yeah.
for your coffee related drink.
Yeah.
And number 6, Mexican mocha.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's where they use
south of the border spice.
where they use the real cane sugar
Uh,
instead of the corn syrup.
I'm not going to say anything about the ingredients one
Okay.
way or the other because I do not know.
Okay, I'm just speculating.
Okay, it's an energy coffee drink that not only tastes great but gives you the energy to go from point A to point done.
A little oomph.
That's right.
A little get up and go.
Just drink one of these and wrap it up.
get. Er,
Yep, get
Done.
it done. The famous catchphrase.
I just made that up.
That's great. You should trademark that.
Put that on a T-shirt.
Exactly. Yes, that is exactly the type of point A to point done type thinking that I like to see around here.
You drink one of these, and catchphrases are just going to come pouring out.
That's right, because you're sharper.
Yeah.
You got a little more energy. Starbucks Double Shot is energy to do things you actually do.
But faster.
But yeah, well, yeah, just make it happen.
And more intensely.
Exactly. Find it at your local convenience store. Now that's convenient.
I understand there's a new Guacamelee this week?
They named it 2.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a sequel.
What's the second one?
It's the second
Weird.
one. It's
Huh.
Man, it is a lot like that first one.
Boy, it sure is.
Yeah, like they hit the same notes, like even the same laugh lines. I think they're going for a lot of the meme ridden like low hanging fruit kind of humor that was prevalent throughout the first game is certainly prevalent.
Posters and stuff in the background.
Same deal. They have the
Okay.
same kind of versus posters, just with different figures in there. So
I never played the first one. Did I miss out?
It's cool. It was a cool game.
I
It's,
really liked that game about 2/3 of the way through, and then they introduced some of the platforming mechanics, where you're like changing over realities or something like that.
It's kind of a Metroidvania.
yeah,
type.
it's a good
It is.
solid
Okay.
CD with like a kind of a
Open
focus
world.
on melee.
yeah, it's a very solid game. I
Yeah.
think.
Hence the title.
Yeah, there you go.
I never liked the combat in it, so I
was
played a
okay
little
with
bit of
it.
Guacamelee 2 and was like, oh, right, this is
think it
exactly the thing I didn't like about the first game.
I think it was a step
brawlery,
above.
or-
Yeah,
Like the
I thought it was
grabs,
cool
air combo. It's
that
a
it
cool
added
idea.
stuff like that
but-
over just the standard 3-hit combo or something.
Yeah, but at the same
you
time,
unlocked stuff. I thought it was kind of fun and freeform, and
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just
It didn't
like-
click.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. The idea of like because you can grab enemies and throw them into the other guys. There's
Yeah.
kind of an air juggle concept and stuff.
slam them into the ground.
Yeah, and I just something about the way the player moves. The amount of range you get in the air on a jump and stuff like that, like it doesn't feel like enough. The having the roll be on the right sticks or L2 instead of circle, I really hate. It feels like the roll. I'm not rolling with the precision I want to be.
Right.
And there are too many areas, at least early on in Guacamelee 2, where it's just like boom, boom, you're walled off.
Yep.
Now complete this combat trial before you get to move on. And it's just too much of that. It's too much of the combat that I think is like
That's-
kind of average at best.
It's a huge break in the action because with an exploration game such as this, you just like you take a look at your map. Here's my quest goal over here. Yeah, man, that's gonna be like 5 screens. All right, here we go. And then all of a sudden, boom, boom.
Yeah,
they
every
wall me
screen is
in.
like now fight 5 waves of enemies.
Just an
and
arbitrary
it's just
number
like,
of
no,
like.
I
I
don't
don't
want
want
Occurs
to
to
do
me
this.
it's got to be a rough time to be coming to market with a Metroidvania because Dead Cells is
totally.
just sucking up all the oxygen in the room right
Between
now.
Dead Cells, Hollow Knight, Chasm, Death's Gambit.
Yeah,
There's
now this.
it's lush with.
I mean, at this
I mean, if
point,
you're a fan of that genre, I mean, this feels like a golden age right now.
I am ready to
Or
declare.
you might be just like fatigued.
I'm ready to declare Dead Cells like one of the best 2D action games ever made.
All right.
Like it is
Wow.
so
I
fucking
would co-sign
good.
on that.
It is so
Yeah.
good.
How
but brutally unforgiving, right? It's for someone like
Yes.
me that has a hard time with
That's like
more
maybe-
difficult games.
Maybe my one knock against it is so. First of all, I got to the Hand of the King, which I don't know. I guess this is not a spoiler. That's apparently the last boss.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was like halfway through the game. So when I found out I was actually on the last boss, I was a little bummed out.
Is it
well,
shorter than you thought it was going to be?
But I mean it's a roguelike, whatever you want to call it. I mean it's a run-based thing, so it's made to be short.
And the thing is, where you kind of get the depth and what I'm kind of experiencing is what all the alternate exits and all the different
Yeah.
biomes and how there's like way more than you think
So
there
looking
are.
at looking at the trophy list, I haven't even seen like half the levels. So
Yeah.
maybe that's not. And also, I'm in nowhere close to beating that last boss. Like,
Yeah,
I've
that
gotten
too.
maybe a third of his health off. But the one thing I was going to say about it being brutally hard is the ways that they make it hard as you get deeper in are starting to chafe a little bit.
It is,
like
it's
in which
punishing.
way?
It's
That-
unforgiving. in
that last
respect.
level before the last boss in particular, is it always the same last level?
Well, depends which exits
Which
you
route?
choose
Okay,
previously,
well,
but the castle.
Yeah,
With the
basically,
guys with the hooks?
there are enemies that can shoot you from any angle. There are guys who can hit you from above and below and through
Yeah.
walls. There are swinging, like basically the problem is you're getting hit from like so many different angles that you can't help but get hit by something else as you dodge out of all the way the other shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it starts feeling a little bit cheap when you can't maneuver out of everything.
Yeah,
Like,
I've never felt too overwhelmed in it. I feel like if I'm in a part where I'm being attacked by all directions, it's because I've like run past something.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm just fucked because I'm overwhelmed.
A lot of it, I think, is also very build dependent.
Yeah.
Because like the run that I had the worst problem with, I was using the backstab daggers, so I had to get right up on top of everything to kill it.
You are in the mix.
And like I had no crowd control, so basically like it depends on what you have and how you have to use it. Like sometimes
The only
it's
other
not
thing about it that gave me pause was you talk about fatigue. Is I feel like that retro visual aesthetic is starting to get very overdone.
Yep.
yeah, I can see it. That game does it incredibly well.
But it does do it well.
yeah.
It almost it wasn't like, okay, let's just go all out kind of 16-bit style. It almost reminded me a little bit of like an old-fashioned 16-bit game, almost like kind of Symphony of the Night or something, where it's like kind of mid. They seem to find a middle area where it was like it felt kind of modern and retro at the same time, which I like. But I think in general that kind of blocky, pixelated 8-bit or 16-bit aesthetic is starting to feel a little bit like, let's try something else now. We've had that.
Yeah, especially the stuff that is like trying to be very faithful to it.
Yeah.
I think that's the stuff specifically that is
like
starting to
Celeste
rub me.
and stuff like that.
I think Celeste plays really great and is awesome in a lot of ways. But yeah, like kind of like if there had been maybe a different style to something like Celeste or Iconoclast, I guess a little bit.
And it's almost a feeling of kind of fake nostalgia because the core market for a lot of these games are going to be kids that don't even remember those games when that's what graphics look like.
It's just an aesthetic choice now. I think you know, you have people that will remember it as a nostalgic thing or not true to this nostalgic thing, but it's just become another tool for artists.
I have to assume there's an element of utility to it for small indie developers because I mean I don't want to assume too much about the like art generating process, but I have to imagine it's less work than like a really
I think it's a legitimate creative choice that
thing.
also has a lot of nice utilitarian benefits to it.
Yeah.
I mean, what I was going to say is there's a lot of people my age who didn't necessarily grow up in the 80s, but still have that fondness for that 80s nostalgia when it comes to movies.
Yeah, like those games hung around in the 90s. Like, you probably still played them, even though they didn't come out in your day.
But yeah, rough time to be coming to market with any kind of Metroidvania type game because it's saturated right now. That genre is having a moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And certainly if you're not doing anything that's really new, and that seems to be the case with.
I did like the you talk about the kind of sense of humor and stuff like that. Like there's a couple of early bits in Guacamelee that I thought were pretty good. Yeah. Like, you know, it opens in a very Symphony of the Night way of facing the last boss from the first game.
That's true.
Okay. In a way that I thought was like handled well enough.
For a hot second, I was like, "Are you really going to make me fight the end boss?" But no, it's like it's a very
easy version of the end boss, and then the trophy is named like this was I thought this was harder last time I did it. You know, they're acknowledging that aspect of it. And then the bit that happens after that is like kind of teleporting through different weird portals into other games. Seemingly, I thought was like pretty well done for what it was as a quick little throwaway thing.
Yeah,
but everything after that, I thought was like
I thought they leaned into it a little too hard, like with that limbo level. You know, they're going to purgatory, right? Yeah. And all of a sudden they find themselves in a limbo level, and they're like, oh wait, this is the wrong sort of purgatory or whatever. But they have the spider and stuff.
Oh, was it referencing the game Limbo? Okay, cool.
Huh.
I thought it was clever for what it was.
Clever.
I don't know.
For 30 seconds.
Yes,
but
it doesn't last.
It went on for a few minutes.
Nothing against people who wanted more Guacamelee. I mean, I'm happy for you, but I would have liked to see that studio
like patronizing.
Well, no. I mean, like it's Drinkbox, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Like, did you play Severed?
Yeah,
the game they did after Guacamelee. Like, that's a totally different kind of game and really creative
Very
and really well handled. It's this touch-driven, like dungeon crawler, like first person. Like classic style, you know, like move,
swords,
move
kind of thing,
space by space,
in chunks,
like Eye of the Beholder kind of stuff.
Like that cool screensaver.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's got a really cool like touch-based combat system that's got some depth to it. Anyway, like they have done other more interesting stuff.
That's why I was looking forward to this one because I did. I think back at Guacamelee pretty fondly. You know, with the exception of some of the late platforming stuff, but. So I was interested to see where this was going to go, and I don't know if it's going to go any higher or lower.
It just seems like they settled right back into that pocket, and they're like, all right, here's more of this.
Art's fantastic. I think it looks better than the original.
I like the setup. I like the characters. I think the writing, other than the parts that get kind of like a little referential, being kind of what they are, but I think I did like overall like the way the characters are presented and that sort of stuff is nice.
What do you think of? Is it Tostada?
Tostada is the playable character.
Yeah. So you can actually have 4 playable characters on screen at the same time, like local co-op. It seems pretty cool. That's definitely something that's different.
Yeah.
I don't know how they'd handle that. Like if they scale
They
the
just
enemies
scale the combat. They must.
or the number
Yeah.
of enemies, or I don't know. I don't know that many people that would want to play with me, so it's just going to be solo for me.
That's always for me the saddest thing about 4-player games is that sometimes it's hard for me to round up 3 other people, and I feel
Yeah.
really sad about myself.
It's like I always. It's why those games, they're coming out with some small studios that are, going to be deliberately limited in scope in some cases, and they're like, oh well, yeah, we didn't do online for it because that's really hard. It's like I get it, but that also means now I basically can't play this game because I
don't have any real friends.
Yeah, I don't even really get to play Nidhogg with anybody.
I know. I'll play Nidhogg with myself sometimes.
Yeah.
Remember that time I came over and we watched 21 Jump Street?
Yes.
That might be the last time I went to somebody's house and watched a movie.
Oh wow, and that was a while
That was
back.
like 3 years ago.
Wow, you should come back. We'll do 22 Jump Street.
Okay, I still haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't?
Oh,
Oh, you've got to
good.
come back. We'll do
Pretty
22. Come over. We'll do 22 Jump
okay.
Street.
All right,
Nice.
we
It's
should,
not as good as the first one, but
Right.
it's still very good.
we,
Yeah.
should, we should do that.
And the closing credits are as good as anything they ever did.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I don't mean to shit on the game too
No,
terribly
it's
much.
fine.
This is just my disappointment kind of
Yeah.
coming out in that it's not
It's when
more than
Brad
what it
It's
was.
when Brad said, "If you like guacamole, I'm
No,
happy for
I
you."
just I mean that sincerely. Like if you're into more guacamole, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I wish they had done something different.
But you did finish Dead Cells.
No, I'm still on that. I mean, I've made it to that last boss a couple times, but
You haven't beat the last boss.
But I'm still missing like the little red rune in the ground. I have no idea what that's
The
about.
ram
rune?
I'm missing like what I assume has to be a wall jump because there's all these places where you would need
Yep.
a wall jump.
Yeah.
So you're missing at least 2 runes.
I assume there's going to be a way at some point to open all those doors that you can bang on and that you can't get in.
Yeah, there's
But
a,
would
there's
you
a way
would you
for
not?
that.
I want to try because everyone's raving about it. But I'm also the kind of person that throws the controller easily. Would you recommend it for me or not?
It can
Just
be,
get a pillow.
I feel
it can be pretty infuriating.
I feel like most of my deaths in that game are just I after I die I'm like, okay, that was on me. I did not approach that calmly enough. I should have like gone in and cooler heads prevail. But like maybe 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 times I'm just like, these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Because there's no the main thing about it is when you get hit, there's no invincibility, so you can just get comboed if you
Oh,
find
you don't
yourself.
get. You don't.
Yeah.
There's no moment of.
you can go from full health to dead in like 3 seconds.
If you like
it's-
get really messed
you
up
get-
in a corner or something, you can just
you can get bounced around for like a guy will hit you and knock you into the spikes,
Wow.
and then you roll off of there right into a
Even the
projectile.
most brutal NES games gave you that little
Yeah.
moment, right, where you
Yeah.
flashed invulnerable for a half second.
It seems like that game really is just about like kind of taking your time and being careful.
Yep.
which is extra
the way
fucked
to
because
play.
of how many of those time gates that you just run into. And it's
Oh,
like,
right, yeah.
Oh, pity you didn't make it
Yeah,
here
if
2
you
minutes.
had been here 6 minutes earlier, you could have got some bonus shit. Fuck
Yeah.
off, I guess. It's like, cool.
But it is very technical because you don't take damage when you just touch an enemy. They have like specific attacks. And those are what hurt
It's
you.
one of my favorite parts.
and
about the
they
game,
telegraph that very
Yeah.
clearly. So like you can run right up to a guy, roll through him. Like you've got a lot of maneuvering potential.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's fun in that way for sure.
I feel like the thing that I'm really now appreciating about the game, going through, I have all the runes. I haven't beaten the last boss yet, but I'm doing more exploring, trying to find as many of those exits as I can. Is just how many cool little secrets there are. Just that they're kind of one trick because like each stage kind of has its 1 or 2 secrets. But once you kind of find them, like there's the gardener keys in the second level. I forget the name of that second level.
The
but-
ramparts or
promenade.
the promenade?
No, it's the promenade.
Oh, yeah,
So there's like a part where there's 3 locked doors and then a blueprint at the end. And I got 2 of those keys really easily, and there was just a 3rd key, and I spent an hour looking for that 3rd key.
I still haven't gotten it.
And I
See, that's the kind of
eventually
thing that would drive me
found
crazy.
it.
Did you find it?
I did.
So like you could get it. It was just hard to find.
It was
Huh.
literally in plain sight in a
Huh.
way. I don't really want to like spoil it for those who are trying to hunt it for their own.
Yeah, don't.
But then there's other little things like so I told you guys this when I found out, but so when you clear a level, you get to like a little hub area where you can spend souls, which are or cells, which are the currency for upgrading stuff. And it doesn't let you leave the first door. Like if you try and open the door, the guy says, no, you got to spend everything here. You can just break down that door. You can just hit that door twice and it crumbles. And then you can carry those cells on to like, there's a later blacksmith area that has more permanent upgrades. That's like whenever you find
like
an
the
item.
mid game, like right after the first boss.
Yeah, whenever you find an item, it'll have like a modifier on it. Like does 50% extra damage to burning enemies.
Does the game hold your hand at all, or does it just throw you straight into
No,
the
it's
deep
it's
end?
fairly Dark Souls in that
Okay.
it just sort of makes you.
There's like
figure it out.
one tutorial very, very light tutorial thing that like
Like
shows
your first
you,
run through.
How to jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, and like the idea of like this is a scroll, you can power up one of these 3 things.
Yeah.
If anything, there's a little bit of like intentional misdirection that then makes sense later
Well, like
on.
just like you just said, the game is telling you no, you can't proceed, but in fact you can if you
Right.
break the door anyway.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's the philosophy for sure.
And the normal the doors that you have to pay to open to get an item behind, you can bust those down too.
What?
But you'll get a curse.
Oh wow.
What?
Huh. Okay.
You don't need to pay for those, but
I've actually never died to the curse. I don't know how. Like that seems insane, but
Yeah, I feel
it just
like I have
makes
a
you play
pretty-
so carefully.
Yep.
Yeah, I really do like the curse system because now I'm just like I have the camera all the way panned over to one side just to look for enemies.
Basically, there are these cursed treasure chests that have like an evil face that laughs at you on them, and he's like, "Ha! Open
hit
me,
me.
do it.
I've
Come on,
I've
come
been
on."
a bad boy.
Like
hit
you want to
me.
open me, but when you open them, you get a curse where until you kill 10 enemies, 1 hit will kill you. So if you get hit at all before you kill 10 enemies, you're just dead.
right.
It gives you like a really rare item or something.
Yeah, it's like a good upgrade, but then
So you just have to be super
so
careful
then you have
during
to
that
then you have
period.
to pick off 10 enemies without taking a single hit. and
But
it's
if you
just
are the kind of
super
player
tense.
that can manage that, you would be hitting those
Yeah.
treasure boxes, right? And saying, "Well, I'll take the curse. It's
Yeah.
worth
Yeah.
it to
Yeah.
get this extra stuff."
yeah, there's
Definitely.
so much variety and
That's kind of cool because it allows you almost to kind of set the difficulty level, like
Yeah.
how you
Yep.
want to play by how
Yeah.
you want to play.
Yeah.
and
I like
And
that.
There
you
are
get
these,
the reward for it.
there are like modifiers that you can equip after each level, and there's one modifier. It's like whenever you lift a curse, you get 10% of your HP back. So you can even like really lean into that. If you're like
Yeah.
if you like being meticulous and getting all those curse chests, you can get rewarded for that play
Right.
style, which is really cool.
Right.
Oh, I like this game a lot.
It's very good.
really good.
I like what I'm hearing. I just feel like it's aimed at players with a higher degree of skill than me.
I mean, you do feel yourself getting better at it. Like I
Yeah.
just got the trophy this morning for beating the concierge without getting hit.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So like you get better at the stuff as you do it over and over.
right.
Yeah, the concierge is. I remember my first time against that guy; it was just miserable.
Yeah,
but
he's
now,
like a pushover now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hell of a game for sure.
I can talk about one thing.
Oh, do we have breaking?
No, we don't have breaking news yet. But yesterday, I guess, as of yesterday, I can talk about the fact that I went to Ubisoft and played a couple games. One of those was Trials Evolution.
Wait.
Welcome to the Evolution.
Trials Evolution is a
What game did you play, Ben?
Been
Which
around
Trials?
for a bit, isn't
The
it?
upcoming game in the Trials
Trials
franchise.
Rising, right?
Trials Rising.
Welcome to the Rising.
That sounds very dramatic for a bike game.
Well,
the
you know,
last one had a weird futuristic robot voice and story and all this other weird shit laid in
and it's not
around
just
the
bikes. There's
Oh.
explosions whenever you finish a race. Did they do that in the old
It's
one?
not just bikes.
There's
There's
explosions.
explosions. Yes. The franchise was practically built on like when you finish the race, everything ragdolls and
Yeah.
explodes and,
Right.
and acts weird. Yeah.
Right.
Did they have a
It's always-
ragdoll button?
Yes.
Yeah, you could
Okay.
always bail off the bike. I
So
think.
Now, talking
that's
about
not
games that
new.
make you throw your controller.
Trials.
Trials.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so I played the new Trials, and there's not a ton to say about it that we didn't already say at E3. Dan and I got a chance to play that there. We talked about the tandem bike there. That's pretty cool.
Explain that a little bit more.
So
Is
basically,
that for 2 players?
Yeah, you can play 2-player co-op. The interesting thing about it is if you're both holding, so you both have full control. So if like both players are holding opposite directions, you don't move at all.
Sounds
Right.
like a nightmare.
Yes.
But if you're both moving forward, you're 20% faster than any other bike.
Okay.
So theoretically,
If you can work together,
you can get the best times on these courses with a tandem bike, unless like certain bikes can do. I don't know what else. I can't say guaranteed, but that's kind of the implication of the thing.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit. It's a little bit
steering,
longer.
The steering sounds like a nightmare, though. We're trying to get 2 players to steer in the same direction.
But like if you can get in sync, Dan and I were, we played for maybe an hour back at E3, and then I played it again here with a little bit of co-op, to less success. But if you can get if you're both good at Trials and you both have like a feel for Trials, you can do a pretty good job of maneuvering it.
Can you play the whole game in tandem? Or is that a special mode?
I think so.
'Cause
I think when you select bikes.
I almost wonder if you got really good at the tandem, if that would break some of the courses, because those courses, like the length of jumps and stuff, are probably they have to be all designed around the capabilities of the solo bikes.
Yeah.
So if you've got extra speed that the solo bikes don't have, you could probably just like sail right past.
Yeah, you could
some of the
probably like do
obstacles.
some skips on certain levels for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's kind of how the other games were. You could take some of the higher speed bikes,
Yeah,
higher
take a late
mobility
game
bikes,
bike back onto the
Yeah.
earlier tracks, and
and just blow away those scores.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much those old trial games. The less of Trials 3 was the one that kind of got away, right? That
they had the trick system and stuff that
Yeah,
they put in there
fusion.
that didn't really. It you know I see. Of course, you would put a trick system in at some point, but I don't think it really served the game all that well.
so they got kind of away from that. There's no trick system in this game. It's similar to those old ones. I guess the biggest new thing about it is they have this stadium mode, I think is what they called it, and it is a series of events where, so this one was in a monster truck park. And so it was 3 different stages all within the same kind of stadium.
Okay.
And what you're doing is heats, basically. So the first heat, there's 8 players, you and 7 AIs, and you have to get top 4. And then the second one, it's down to 4. You have to get top 2.
Same track again or different track?
Different track.
Okay.
And then the last one's 1-on-1. And so you do these each individually, and then once you successfully do all 3, you have to do all 3 in a row. And it was it's pretty fucking hard, honestly. Like the individually, they're kind of like any sort of trials thing, but you're on a much harsher timer because you're racing against other people.
Yeah.
And in normal trials, like you're racing against ghosts, but you don't have to beat them just if you want medals.
Yeah.
So it is really about mastering these short courses rather than trying to figure out the puzzle of a longer course. And the cool thing about it is they use their same system of matchmaking to pull actual runs from other players
neat.
to use
Okay.
those as the ghosts. So they kind of approximate
Neat.
how good you are, kind of give you what I assume is like an MMR or some sort of ranking, and then finds other players with it as in the same range as you. And so you're actually racing against other players. You'll see their gamer tags, above their heads and stuff. And so that was pretty cool.
How many
That was
games
always-
deep are they into that franchise now?
Like this has to be what the
Four
fourth or fifth.
fifth.
Yeah. If you got there was an iOS
Also-
one that was actually like not too
Yeah.
bad.
Also, like the beginning of the series
like a
was kind
Flash
of
game.
murky. Yeah, like wasn't it
Oh.
free at one time?
Yeah, there was a Flash.
Like, wasn't
few
the
Flash games.
first game was free or something like that?
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
what I
think
remember. 'Cause I remember
Trials-
liking the first one.
Like wasn't Trials HD the first commercial release?
No,
Or
it was
there was one on
commercial,
PC.
but
There
yeah,
was
it was
one
on
on
PC. It was the
PC,
first.
okay.
That was the first console release.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, and it's still bombastic. Like you're racing up the Eiffel Tower and stuff like that.
Cool.
Just very
Yeah.
like over the top. There's a really good one that's in like a Universal theme park, kind of like you're going through a
nice.
waterfall, and then there's
Oh,
like a
yeah.
scary skeleton cave, and then
This is in the new one?
Yeah.
Oh, I would play this.
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that out this year? That's out this year, right? Or is it?
Maybe.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
But that's the Gamescom build that they're showing off there over there.
Oh, okay.
And
That is such a super
No.
frustrating, but like
Next year.
ultimately
Next
like
year. Okay.
so rewarding game. And I love the
Totally.
like motivators of having your friends, ghosts, to race against.
Yeah.
I went back to
That
Trackmania
series is so
Turbo a
cool.
little bit over the weekend because it does a lot of that same stuff.
Yeah.
we have
Breaking
breaking
news.
news.
Now you can talk about the other game.
Did an embargo just elapse or something?
Maybe. I also, while over there checking out Trials, got to play that new Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Or
Odyssey?
not Brotherhood. Odyssey.
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 Oh, this is the Greek one?
yes.
Ancient Greece?
Yep. So they did the same thing. I played this at E3. That was their first kind of showing of the game. This is a updated build. They sat us
Creed.
down.
Odyssey. Assassin's Creed.
That would
Go
be
ahead.
good. It would be good if they had a big band in Assassin's
Is this
Creed.
a new
would-
full fat Assassin's Creed?
This is they said they've like 3 years in production on this one. They've been doing it for a while. It's
Yeah, because
on the-
Origins doesn't seem like it's that far away. It's
Yeah,
like
it's like
barely a year old.
8 months ago.
Yeah.
10 months ago.
Yeah. So this takes place with the same character outside of the Animus, the same, like Desmond-like character as Origin, but a different protagonist in game. You play as either Alexios or Alexandra. It can't be. They can't both be Alex. I am misremembering the woman's name, but yeah, same idea as you choose one or the other. And the mission I played was hunting down and killing a Medusa, actually.
Okay.
So
Oh,
they're
nice.
kind of leaning into a lot of the
Castlevania stuff. Nice.
Yeah,
I was
you
going to
know,
ask if there was like a Clash of the Titans kind of like.
So
a
this is
theme.
mythological ancient Greece rather than historical ancient
It is
Greece?
historic.
What are you saying about Medusa? Are you saying Medusa that's not real? Because I don't know.
So like
I mean,
you are meeting Socrates on one hand, but then you're also
So
like
it's a mashup
yeah,
of history and mythology.
Odyssey kind of or
Odyssey got pretty surreal.
Odyssey had
and
like moments
supernatural, right?
of Egyptian kind of spiritual like there's this whole sequence where you're fighting this giant snake god.
Yeah, like I watched Rory fight some like 40-foot tall, dog-headed.
how do you think the pyramids were built?
something? I don't know.
It was built by a 40-foot dog-headed dog.
Yeah.
So it seems like they're leaning a little more into this. They kind of alluded to the fact that Medusa isn't the only mythological type of creature. But basically, so you roll up on the island of Lesbos, and you find this woman who's being put on trial that her girlfriend. So everyone thinks she sacrificed her girlfriend to the monster of the forest, which is Medusa. But she's like, no, she like got lost or whatever. You have to help me find her. And so you have to go around and you get unique to this game. You kind of have these optional side quests. So you get the main quest. It's like, okay, you need to go get the key and then you can get into the temple. But also there's this warrior who claims that he killed the monster of the forest. And so you need to go talk to him and figure out what he knows if you want.
Okay.
And so if you go do that, you get like a better spear that does bonus damage against Medusa if you go complete his quest. I guess kind of the big difference gameplay wise in this game compared to the last is instead of just having a skill tree where you're unlocking a bunch of abilities and passives and stuff like that, you have kind of like MOBA-esque active skills.
Oh, huh.
So
Like
you
with
assign
cooldowns?
them. Yeah, so like you hold right bumper and press one of the 4 face buttons. We were playing max level builds, so everything unlocked, full skill tree. And you actually had 2 skill sets to choose from. You can just swap between them on the fly, so 8 total actives. And they'd be stuff as simple as like, the Spartan kick, which is just a big like 300 style kick that does a bunch of damage, or Spartan Rage, where you do 300% damage for a limited time, and then there's like stuff like a heal. And so it really does feel like they are moving even more towards a kind of Witcher-like, a kind of, open world RPG than an Assassin's Creed.
They show any
classic
of
game.
like I guess it sounds kind of like a Nemesis system. Like I was reading about it a little bit.
No,
like
they didn't talk
they've-
about that at
Okay,
all.
they've announced like it kind of sounds like the Shadow of War stuff.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's some mercenary system.
So they got kind of each area has some sort of score. I forget what they call it, but like it's like political unrest basically. And they alluded to the fact that as you're taking down generals and stuff, places will become more restless. And so you'll be able to go in there and kind of I don't know what exactly you'll do, but at all times,
like maybe kind of take over a region and be like, we run this
Yeah.
town now.
Yeah, and
And
like
it's-
I was reading like these named enemies, you can either kill them or recruit them.
Oh,
Oh
So
yeah,
some choice
there's
with
totally
stuff
like
like
a
that.
recruitment thing, and there's like the big battle system, which they talked about at E3, where there's like 100 versus 100, and you're in there trying to kill some captains.
How are they putting these giant games out every year? Is it like a Call of
different
Duty type
teams.
thing with
Yeah.
different
8,000
devs on
studios.
overlapping cycles? That's what it is?
Yep,
Okay.
Ubisoft has thousands of people.
Name a
employed.
city and there's a Ubisoft studio there.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Because these games, I mean, these full fat Assassin's Creed games are on multi-year cycles.
Yeah,
right?
they're,
They're not-
they're on an
They're
annual,
huge.
annual schedule.
This I counted. So this takes place in kind of like a sea region with a lot of little islands. There's just tons of little islands everywhere, and each of those islands is really its own world with its own quests and political system, like I said. And you're traversing mostly through boat, so they really ramped up the boat stuff, the boat combat, all that.
Boat stuff.
There's a lot of boat stuff.
Yeah. Umbrella drinks, all that sort of thing.
And then that all led to there was one stealth section in there where there was kind of like a key in a camp, and you had to make your way into the camp and get it. And I tried just going in guns blazing, and there's just way too many people. So I was like, okay, right, this is an Assassin's Creed game. I can sneak around and do like chain murdering. And there is a whole tree devoted to the stealth thing. It's not like they're getting rid of stealth entirely, but it does really feel more like a action-oriented game.
Yeah.
Up to the boss fight, even where like it was Medusa. She was there, and you had to run around. She's trying to turn you into stone, and then you fight her for a while. Then she disappears from the screen, and 4 big enemies come down. You have to fight those guys. Just kind of typical.
Just kind of a big old boss fight.
Big old boss fight in an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess it's cool that they're turning that thing into something else. It seems like it really kind of maybe ran its course in its original form. So if they can kind of keep the hints of what made Assassin's Creed good originally around while layering in something that is still cool on its own.
I wonder,
still works.
I wonder
don't
if
know.
it's more of they kind of pushed that game to its limits, like a classic Assassin's Creed, like what we remember, like 2 and those games, or did they want to just try and make this a more
like go in that Witcher direction?
Yeah, like I wonder if it was a conscious decision to try and shift that stuff, or it was like, man, we're running out of ways to sneak up on a dude and stab him to death.
Especially because the bottom fell out of the market after the Unity fiasco.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they kind of had to do something else. I just wonder if there is as much appetite for this one, because last year, A, they changed the whole formula, but B, people had 2 years off from that series.
Yeah, and
Like, there was time for demand to build back up, and now, like you said, it's like, hey, that thing just came out.
Like, I haven't done everything
last
last
fall
fall.
will set in if they do settle into kind of a yearly
Yeah.
cycle, because it really does seem like Origins was not that long ago.
Like, I wonder if people are ready to get back to an every 12-month schedule for Assassins again.
There's
I'm
still
not-
more Origins I could play.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
could
they
go
put
back
out-
and
they put all
play
those
like a lot of
DLC.
them.
I'm not a big Assassin's Creed player, but I do always enjoy. I think more so than Call of Duty and other games that are on big, annual franchise refresh cycles. At least with Assassin's Creed, I think it's interesting to see what historical period they're going to tackle next every time.
yeah.
I wish they would do some more modern eras. There was one that was in like Revolutionary War time, right? Or
3.
Three was
what was the
American
one that was
Revolution.
like in Elizabethan England?
That was Syndicate.
I liked
Right,
that one.
yeah.
Yeah.
I almost kind of wish they would do more.
Charles
I mean,
Dickens was there.
they'll never. Oh, so was it Victorian England?
Yeah. It
So
was.
they'll never run
It was
out
like
of
Industrial Revolution.
They'll never run out of historical periods to tackle. I think everyone's got their own kind of private wish list of where they would like to see the next Assassin's Creed
Yeah,
game
there's always
be set.
been all these like far-flung ideas for like feudal Japan.
Feudal
or,
Japan feels
like
like a no-brainer
like
at some
ancient
point, right?
Egypt felt like a kind of a break from their sort of
Yeah.
Renaissance Europe
Yeah.
trend.
Yeah, because it
finally.
was way farther back in
Yeah.
history, and now
Yeah.
Odyssey feels like it's the continuation of that.
So what's your dream period?
Feudal Japan.
Okay.
That one's been on my mind for a
Yeah.
while. I would
Yeah.
love to see that. Assassin's Creed Samurai would be pretty amazing. Be like a
Mhm.
wandering Ronin. Give it like a kind of classic Kurosawa
Yeah.
type of vibe. I think would be great.
Although I have to imagine Ghosts of Tsushima might scare them away
Mm.
from
Yeah,
that
that
idea
game.
for a bit.
Yeah, maybe so.
Possibly.
Oh, someone was telling me about that just the other day. That sounds really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It looks fantastic for sure. All right. What do y'all say we move into some proper news for a bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about
Yeah.
things happening in the world,
Only if it's proper.
such as Windjammers 2?
What? No. We'll never have another.
Yeah, I was led to believe at one time
I was told.
that we would never have another Windjammers.
I got an email last week booking a PAX appointment, and
Did you think it was a joke?
no,
No?
of course not. At this
Okay.
point,
I
like
thought it was
well, the gloves are off. Like, why not? It was just,
Yeah.
but it was,
Hey, Windjammers was at Evo. It's a thing.
right,
now.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's a line in this press release.
Windjammers was at Evo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I had Xavier Woods doing commentary over the grand finals. It was quite
Yeah.
entertaining, actually.
yeah, sure. There's a couple of screenshots. They put out a trailer that's mostly just animated
Yeah,
stuff,
good.
but there are two screenshots that I saw floating around.
Yeah, you get a good idea of what it looks like.
It looks
I didn't see the
just,
screenshots.
it looks like Windjammers, but like
Like nice hand-drawn art.
yeah,
yeah.
hand-drawn
Speaking
art, yeah.
speaking of not being like retro pixel art,
It's
this
but
is
also
not that.
You're right. It's not that. It's also the type of thing that someone's going to look at and snidely say
it looks like a flash game. Yep.
So
Whatever.
it cuts both ways, I guess. Whatever. Yeah. In the end, whatever.
I had no idea up until Evo that there was such a the reason that Windjammers kind of was still alive was like the scene in
scene in
France.
France.
Yeah,
So-
it is definitely
It's like the
France.
Jerry
Wind-
Lewis of video games.
Yeah, Windjammers France.
That's the line in this press release that really stood out to me. It's from the CEO of Dotemu who's making this. Growing the Windjammers community over the past 2 years has been a lot of fun. And with that growth, we see a great opportunity to continue to innovate on the timeless and fun gameplay. But just like the idea of a Windjammers community is so weird.
It's existed in France for a long time,
but yeah,
you know, and there's been pockets of it a lot in a lot
I
of
wonder
places.
why. It's interesting, isn't it, when games blow up in like a specific territory like that?
KOF being really popular in Mexico.
Yeah, or
Right.
like
Yeah.
StarCraft in Korea is kind of
Yeah.
like the classic example to me.
And you know, so there were not a lot of great ways to play Windjammers prior to the studio coming in and putting it back out, and now it's coming to Switch.
Yeah.
And you know, the online stuff worked well enough. Like we had a lot of like NAT issue related stuff with it, and
in our studio.
But also at home, I did not have a great experience playing online.
Okay.
And that kind of sunk it a little bit. It was like it sunk it for me as a person who has a lot of other ways to play Windjammers. That's kind of the one thing that I would be looking for is like, man, if this has online, then great. And then when that didn't work out so well, it was like, well, I don't know. So, but conceptually, Windjammers 2, you look at it and go, oh, of course, there's totally stuff you could do. You could add a character, you could put in some new specials, some different types of you know, courts to play Windjammers on.
Is BU
Some
gonna
sort
be
of
there?
party mode.
You could also like solve the fucking travesty
Yeah.
of BU, and you could finally have that match between S. Miller and BU.
So there can only be one.
So that in the original arcade version, there was a dip switch. If you had it set to Japan, you got one character. If you had it set to outside of Japan, it was the different character, and never the twain shall meet.
I think they have the same stats, right? Like
Yeah,
same
they're the
abilities.
same character, just with different VO and whatever
Flag.
Yeah, different flag. One's Korean, one's British. And so now they could finally separate them in a Ryu and Ken like way. Make one about power,
You're
one
saying
about
BU
speed.
uses fire.
I'm saying BU is good and S. Miller's trash. And so yeah, I think there's stuff they could do, but also I feel like if I was going to get into another Windjammers game, I would have gotten into Disc Jam or Power, whatever the 3DS game was, or some of that other stuff. So like,
You know,
you know what I like? Windjammers.
But don't forget
Windjammers 2. We'll see.
Don't forget that the people making this have been under the hood of the first Windjammers in a way that nobody else has recently. So like
you can get under the hood of.
I know, but like
It's
they
not-
have done
it was
the
their
work.
job to be
You're
under the
right.
hood.
They did the
Yeah.
work, you know. Like
Yes.
they may have a unique understanding.
I just
of,
like saying Windjammers.
Yeah,
So
it
for
feels
that
good.
reason alone, I'm glad that they're making a new one.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it firsthand. It's just like the announcement is crazy, but also I want to see what they have to say because like,
be-
I
I
mean,
feel
in
like
my
this
mind,
is-
it's really hard for me to envision a scenario where a Windjammers 2 is like actually rad.
I feel like this is a Nidhogg to Nidhogg 2 situation where it's like, I don't really. After they announced Nidhogg 2, in my mind, I was like, I don't really think I like Nidhogg a whole lot. What are they gonna do like to make Nidhogg 2 worth it or interesting?
But they went and showed you.
But they,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
just like
this
Yeah.
announcement
the
is
core game is very much the same, but all the trappings
And you know
trappings around it.
they're able to work with a 16:9 native display here because they're not emulating an old game. You know there are
They have netcode that they've built that they can hopefully iterate
hopefully,
on.
I don't know. Yeah, hopefully
the court.
Uh,
Well, maybe I shouldn't judge early screenshots too much, but the court looks a little cramped to me. Like the characters are huge, and these specials kind of take up all the remaining space.
yeah,
Like,
it's very.
I don't know. Whatever, we'll see. The announcement is very light on details.
Yeah. Well, you know, they're still putting out Windjammers 1 on
Yeah,
Switch next year, so you know they still have.
But like literally, the only hard information in this is that it will have both multiplayer and single player.
Well, all right,
Like, that's kind of what they say.
Confirmed.
great.
Actually,
Just
there's. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just as an aside, I love the fact that almost every game of that's even vaguely any good is now finding a second life on Switch.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Actually,
I just know Okami is on Switch now. Again, I haven't played since the original Wii version, but I'd be excited to get back to. Just everything's getting so. I think so many games. You know, my favorite game of last year, Inside, or maybe it was the year before last. When did Inside come out? Like 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
My favorite game of 2 years ago. Now, you know, just a lot of people I think would never have found these games are discovering them through the Switch ports, and I think that's fantastic.
If we don't count the PC, it might have one of the most impressive libraries of any system. Just like, honestly, by all the cool games that they are porting to
I got
it.
a lot of shit for it, but I did a tweet the other day saying if somebody asked me at this point, what console should I get of all the ones that are out there, I'd say get a Switch. And it's the first time I've said that since the Super Nintendo era. Many people vociferously disagreed with me, but I think there's a better argument for it now with the
Because you
Switch
didn't
than
say
there
the
has been.
GameCube.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. No, so literally a couple of people actually said, I would say like since the GameCube. That's what people said. Really, seriously?
Like, no.
But no, you haven't been able. I would say this. There's obviously really, really strong arguments for the other consoles as well, but you haven't been able to make a cohesive argument for here's why you should get this Nintendo console as opposed to another one for a very long time. The Switch is the first time you've been able to make that argument, I think.
I think so.
And a lot of it is because of that. People go, oh, but it's just all on ports. Yeah, but sure, but ports of great games.
Yeah.
If you've not played them, it's new to you, and there are many, many people out there that haven't played those games.
And they're getting those games. Like the last couple of platforms they've developed, like the support from independent developers and stuff has not been this strong. So now they're kind of right there with the PlayStation and Xbox in terms of getting these indie games.
Yeah.
And Nintendo has that benefit of like, and it does a thing that these other consoles can never do by letting you take it with you. So it
Right.
kind of, it becomes that thing that the Vita could have been as well.
And developers are lining up to dust off these old games because they will tell you the numbers on Switch are better than they're seeing on
Yeah.
other platforms.
I mean, what the fuck? Am I high, or did they announce Saints Row the Third for Switch this morning?
Yes.
Oh
What?
my goodness!
I joked.
That-
I joked about that on Twitter like 2 weeks ago that they
Yes,
should
they
add
did.
Saints Row the Third to the Switch.
Yeah,
That's pure magic.
They're-
I could totally
Jesus
see myself
Christ.
revisiting Saints
Yeah.
Row
You
the
made it
Third.
I'm
happen,
in.
Ben.
I'm
so
in.
you know you've got a platform in the Switch that is roughly equivalent to that that Xbox 360 spec.
Right,
So
right. Why not?
Sure, why not port all those games? I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
Hell yeah.
I'm excited. I would totally revisit Saints Row the
Saints
Third.
Row the Third did not run great on an Xbox 360. So I
Oh,
will
the
be
Switch is
really
more powerful.
Might
than that.
probably run
Yeah,
better
it
on a
is.
Switch.
It
yeah.
is. But
We're still in that sweet spot in the Switch's life too, where it's getting the new games that are still coming out on other platforms, like Doom Eternal is coming out day and date, and
yeah.
It is.
That I would
that's
I
not
would
the
I would
version.
never in a million years choose the Switch to play Doom Eternal on. And games of that scope and caliber and stuff that like where the visuals end up being a part that I like care about, I would just never choose that platform.
sure. But I'm
It-
saying
it's cool that it's
cool that it
awesome that it's
exists.
there. It's
Yeah.
awesome that it's there, but that's
Yes,
just
you're
not
right.
for
Switch
me.
would not be the platform of choice for Doom Eternal when PC, PlayStation, and Xbox are out there. But again, every now and again, I still have, as jaundiced as I am, and as long as I've been doing this, playing games, there are still little moments that feel like magic. And just the other day, I was playing a little bit of Mario Odyssey. I was watching my kid play it on the handheld. I'm just thinking, this is insane.
Yeah.
That's like a full-on Mario game, and you're playing it in the palm of your hand. Like, it shouldn't be possible, and yet somehow they did it.
I will still occasionally interrupt the book that my girlfriend is reading just to make her look at, like, hey, check this out. And, like, I pick it up and, like, it moves over to the thing.
I know, it's
And
crazy.
just like you mentioned with kids, I can imagine it's so easy and appealing to have a Switch as a kid because you can just bring it over to a friend's house and have
Right.
all your entire library on the thing. You don't need to lug around a huge console. Like if you want to dock it on the TV, sure you can, but like you can just be like, hey, check it out. I got this new,
And if you got a kid that's monopolizing the TV, you can just take it out of the dock and say, "Here, go
Play
somewhere
Fortnite
else.
in your room."
I've got some things to watch."
I think it's just that
Close the door.
Certain gamers of a certain age, like myself, are old enough to remember to appreciate how far we've come. Because if I was holding the Switch the other day and thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, you'll probably know this if I'm wrong. That thing is basically around the same size, if not smaller, than an Atari Lynx.
Oh, it's definitely thinner.
It is.
It's definitely
taller.
thinner.
It is higher, but definitely thinner.
I don't think it's as wide.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's not as wide. It's
Yeah.
probably smaller overall than the original Lynx.
Right.
There was a second
Less
Lynx
mass
that
than
was
a Lynx.
less mass than a Lynx, certainly.
And lighter. And I don't know if you
Especially
played.
when you fill
I
up them
don't know
with
if you played looked at a Lynx game recently. But
I have.
man, have we come a long. Of course, you have. Man, have we come a long way.
yeah. Lynx is still pretty good though. It's a good
I
version.
mean,
It's a
it was
good version
a
of
battle.
California games.
I remember the Lynx. It was a battle to even be able to see what was happening on the screen.
Yep. Yeah. There was a weird, it was a backlit screen, but it still kind of
Barely.
looked like shit, or it
Yeah.
still would look
Everything
washed
looked
out. Yeah.
totally washed
It's like-
out.
yeah.
Um,
And
The backlight
you'd have
was,
to
like,
play. You'd have to play that
overpowering.
in a dark room, or forget about
the
it.
second Lynx, I want to say, was a little bit better.
There was a second
It
one?
was
Like a
redesigned.
Rev?
It,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't, but it was smaller. It wasn't as like long. But yeah, it's
That was a bad system.
we were just talking about during the break the very idea of loading games off a cassette tape for 25 minutes.
Right.
And yes, handheld, full-fledged Mario game is
That you can put in your pocket. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy.
yeah.
And I think you appreciate that when, even though it's going to be not as fluid as the version you get on your Xbox. So like the idea, like, we've seen Doom, we've seen Skyrim now.
Oh, yeah.
the fact that these games now do exist, even in a somewhat mitigated form,
Still
exist
totally
in the
playable.
palm of your hand, is totally magic. I love it.
In some cases, indistinguishable. I mean, like Skyrim basically is just Skyrim.
We've been on a couple of long plane journeys since the Switch came out, and man, the plane journey just goes like that when you've got that Switch. I love it.
Yo,
Time just disappears.
Yo, you got that Switch.
You got that Switch.
IO Interactive
Ayo.
has made a super cool announcement about the forthcoming Hitman 2, which is that all of the maps from the first Hitman that came out 2 years ago are also going to be in the game.
Good, they're done.
Let's
see it.
I guess they're going to be downloadable at launch. It sounds like they will not be on the disc.
Will it be right at launch, or will it be
this
sometime after?
Press release says at launch.
So they said it would be free for existing owners of the first Hitman.
Yeah,
so when they first rolled out Hitman, it was meant to be this episodic thing, and when they it was the idea that they were building this framework that they could work from for years. It seems like it's not quite working out. There didn't look like it was going to work out quite that way with Hitman 2 here, because they're not doing it as episodic.
My hope was they would patch new content in as Season 2 for Hitman, but I think that was naive.
I thought the episodic model had been successful for them.
Yeah, I think it had been.
Well, not enough for Square Enix.
Yeah, it depends who you ask.
Because they cut IO loose.
I think it was successful for the game. Like, in terms of like playing the game, it was a really good way.
It was a good way to go about that kind of game.
To see that content. Business-wise, I don't know. I mean, then they went and signed this deal with Warner Brothers to publish and distribute and all this other stuff. So, then they're right back into let's make a disc.
I like the title of this new thing, World of Assassination.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love envisioning a like World of Warcraft-esque MMO where everybody is Agent 47.
World of is just such an innocent phrase. I usually associate like world of color, or world like kids books, like World of Animals.
World of
now World of Assassination.
World of Imagination. Is
World of Imagination. Welcome to World of Assassination.
Yes, Dan and I got a lot of laughs out of that when we did all those videos for sure. But it's cool because like they've added. There's a list in here, but. What is new in the game? Hiding in foliage, bigger crowds, picture-in-picture stuff, strategic use of mirrors. Because my understanding is that the guards can see you in mirrors now. They can see your reflection.
That's cool.
Improved combat AI, new gameplay items like the briefcase, dart gun, and flash grenades, new difficulty levels, etc. Basically, like all the new mechanical stuff for Hitman 2 will also be playable in those old maps.
Cool.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like what they did with Left 4 Dead.
Yeah. Yes. And it, like you said, free for anybody who owns the first game. It's super cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that is really
and then
cool.
that obviously that lets them make like new elusive targets on those old maps.
Yeah.
Like it just lets them mix it up a lot more.
But helmet.
Yeah. Hopefully, Mr. Kruger.
Hitman's just going to be around forever, isn't it?
I hope so.
They've really found.
I mean, it has been, but
but this new run of it, this reboot, it really seems like they've found brand new ways to bring it to people.
Yeah, they really made a lot of new Hitman fans with that last one.
Yeah, like me. Like I didn't like any of the Hitman games until this one that they just put out. Like it's incredible.
This means we're going to get a new
which
Hitman movie?
Which is the one you're referring to?
It's just called Hitman.
The episodic one or the one?
Yeah, the episodic one.
Yeah, I did the first couple of missions on that. I liked it.
Yeah, it's just a hell of a game. And I don't know. It's just the early Hitman games. The previous to that, I always just found a little too clunky. A little too.
I tried to play almost all of them and never really got into them.
A little too like here's an early console stealth game before we really figured out the right way to do that or something.
I mean, let's be honest. The new Hitman is also very clunky, but in
yes,
kind of a charming
but
way.
In a clockwork. Yeah, well, yes, you're right.
In a way that you can get your
in a
head
way
around.
that I can truly love. What a game.
As Gary alluded to earlier, new GeForce cards are imminent.
September, right?
Yeah, just announced yesterday, right?
Yeah.
September, where's the
20th?
20th, I believe. I'm trying to find the date.
I think that's only if you're willing to really fork out for the founders.
Yeah, so they're doing the same crap as last time with the 1000 series of like pay a $100 to $200 premium to Nvidia if you want one on launch day.
Yep.
Or if
are the third-party cards not going to be day and date? I thought they were. I thought this time they were going to be way closer.
They weren't
to launch.
with the 1080s.
Yeah, they weren't. But I ended up with a Founders Edition 1080. Because I needed it right then.
It was right there in front of you.
Well, hey, I got it before the Bitcoin fuckers got in, I guess. So there's that.
No, the way I read it on the website yesterday was the Founders Edition is the only. If you want to pay $1,200, is the only way to get it launch day, and then the regular 1080 and the 1070 are going to be down the road a little.
Okay,
I think that's the case. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the
2070,
which I feel like is a real mouthful. I don't know that.
I guess they felt that it felt like a bigger jump than 1180 or 1170.
So, I mean, to be fair, it is like the big thing with these cards is they've got acceleration for real time ray tracing in them, which is kind of like the first big paradigm shift in game lighting in like 20 years.
And I guess we're not going to know for sure exactly what these cards can do until developers really get their hands on them.
Kinda, like they put out tech demos, like Shadow of the Tomb Raider is going to have support for this stuff, and they have a demo out there of that.
But a lot of stuff like machine learning and AI, which I'm not entirely sure exactly what the gaming application is going to be.
They have a deep learning-based anti-aliasing scheme.
I wonder, do you think they might be starting to aim these GPUs more at cryptocurrency miners?
I think they're mining it away or directing it away. They had an earnings report just before this that said that their earnings from cryptocurrency were significantly lower than they had forecasted, and that going forward they were expecting $0. It's like all the crypto stuff has moved on to. I think just all the crypto stuff has moved into into
probably
more
like
industrial
ASICs
settings
and, stuff,
and ASICs and yeah, different types of hardware, to where I've seen some people say that like, hey, the era of consumer crypto mining on a regular PC rig, it's just over.
So does that mean
It's
I
just
can
not.
actually go into a store now and get a graphics card in a way that like 6 months ago I couldn't? They were just the shelves were empty.
It's definitely better than it was. Like I saw some 1080s on a Best Buy shelf like a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah, the crypto mining dried up just in time for the tariffs to go into effect. So
yeah, perfect timing.
Yeah. So it'll still be. So is that $1,200 price including the tariffs, or do you think that it's going to end up?
No, that's just their MSRP. I don't know what the timing is on that stuff.
Okay.
I mean,
You don't know if the tariffs have
doesn't
rolled in.
sound unlike the price of a new high-end graphics card Founders Edition, about $1,200.
What was the 1080
Well,
Ti
I don't know,
when it came out?
what was the
like
1080
was it
at launch?
1,000?
I think it was $1,000. I think it was $1,000. I don't know.
That might be right. This is definitely more.
I'd like to tighten.
So I asked someone who knows about this stuff if I put a 2080 in my machine, or I think I even said a 2080 Ti over the 1080 I've got now, what would I see in terms of performance difference? We talked about this earlier, and he said that you maybe see 10 to 20% difference, but like a lot of there's just so much overhead built in now that there's nothing that can really take advantage of it yet.
Yeah,
These cards are so far ahead of where developers are.
Right.
Well,
Again, that's true
yeah.
for existing games that would just run faster, but the same. But yeah, there are going to be these games supported.
Battlefield.
Well, developers will now start targeting this,
Yeah.
right, for the super ultra high end.
Like the ray tracing stuff is just a fundamentally different lighting model that is more generalized and
it led to some really crappy graphs on their as part of their announcement stream. They were like, how much more powerful are these cards? Let's look at this chart. And it was something that was like literally measuring like RTX ops was the thing. And of course, the cards not designed for ray tracing are going to be worse at ray tracing than the ones you're marketing as the ray tracing cards.
Yeah, like when you go out there and ask enthusiasts, like, hey, how much faster are these than the old cards? Everybody will be like, we have no idea, because like the information they put out is useless.
Yeah,
and
so
like, wait for benchmarks.
It'll come down to benchmarks, and that seems like it might be a more modest increase for traditional games.
Yeah,
but then we'll have to wait and see what like. They said Battlefield 5 would be taking advantage of ray tracing in some way.
Yeah, Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Shadow of the Tomb Raider, yeah. It's like they've got a handful of games. Battlegrounds will roll it in at some point.
Yeah.
And I want to see what that looks like. Ray tracing, that's a word you've been hearing John Carmack use for a very long time.
My Amiga did ray tracing.
Yeah.
That was the last time I heard about it in a serious
way. That
way.
ball bounced.
The bouncy ball and the juggler. Remember the juggler with the spheres? That was ray tracing.
I mean, it's been the thing in like movie visual effects forever. Like it is a much more accurate way to simulate lighting.
I mean, it's one of those things where you can throw all the graphs at me, but show me a forest or something with ray traced lighting, and I'll get it.
I think that's the other thing they failed to do on that stream is they tried to show like they literally were showing fucking spheres. Yeah. It was like the Amiga all over again. But then they were like, and it was just hilarious because they had him up on stage like showing an image like this is with the ray tracing turned off. Now let's turn it on, and like they replaced the image with a different one. It wasn't like, hey, here's a real-time demo. It didn't look like a real-time demo. Nothing was moving. And it looked like different materials on all the surfaces on top of that. And you're like, this doesn't look like comparable. I don't understand what you're trying to show me. And then no one clapped. And he was like, what? Maybe we need to turn it off again. Clap. And then turn it. Yeah, it was a total please clap moment of just like, and then people were like, okay, yay. And then he just leaned into that a little bit to try to get like, oh, no, we need to turn it off again because you need to clap for this stuff. It was like, man, fuck.
I remember hearing.
come
So
on.
I didn't see the presentation, but I heard a few people saying, "Oh, this is awkward," and now I'm starting to understand what it is that they were referring to.
I think the problem is that developers have gotten so good at faking those effects that now that they're doing it more or less for real, like the fakes looked almost as good as the real thing. So it kind of is not
for static
it's
images,
like a lateral
like
upgrade.
that's not the way to show it.
Yeah.
And maybe if you're running a stream, like maybe it'd be hard to run a real time demo. Or I didn't watch the whole presentation because at some point I was like, man, this is a bummer. I'm turning this off. Maybe they had something else later that looked a little.
Did they show
more
anything
lively, but-
specifically
the Tomb Raider,
gaming related?
the Tomb Raider side by side stuff is pretty striking.
right.
I would recommend going and looking at that stuff. Like just a really quick like layman's sort of conceptualization of this is that it attempts to simulate the actual act of light bouncing around in a scene off of different surfaces as opposed to faking all the lights. So you get like reflections and refractions and scattering and shadows and stuff like that, more or less like you would in the real world.
So I
like,
get
that's
that ray
pretty
tracing is
simplified,
obviously now is the new hotness on the PC side. Is this something that when the new generation of consoles come around, we're going to be hearing a lot about ray tracing? Is this the next? Thing?
If this is the big paradigm shift, then I hope so.
Okay,
because you would want all developers to be developing toward it on everything. But I don't know.
Instead of having to we have to do a ray tracing version for these high end PC cards. Like at this point, it probably depends on what AMD does.
Yeah,
because AMD is likely to be providing parts for the next consoles.
You would think so.
Well, I guess we don't know, but so if they push in this direction as
hasn't NVIDIA gotten into legal fights with Sony and Microsoft at different times? I think.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
So,
probably.
Anyway, that's all.
And then Intel
stuff.
is supposed to be doing discrete.
Yeah, now Intel
cards.
is making graphics cards too. So exciting times in the extremely dry world of computer graphics.
Whatever, man. I want that hair to look good. Tress effects. Let's make it real.
Hair works.
Tress effects.
Yeah. Speaking of the business,
just before we move on, I hate myself because there's no reason for me to get one of these graphics cards, but I'm still like, and it starts to work on me in these terrible ways of well, we should probably see what the new graphics card looks like. I should probably buy one so we can speak to it on a podcast. Like I start to justify it that way as a work thing, and
I do that to my wife.
I had the same.
She's slowly coming on to.
I had the same feeling when I looked. That's why I was texting my friend the other day who knows about graphics cards, because I was staring at that Founders Edition, going, I don't need this thing at all.
Nope.
But I want it. But wait, hold on. Maybe I do need it. And I texted my friend saying, how much better is this thing really than what I've got? And I was hoping he would say, oh my God, night and day, because then I could justify it. But he was like, you wouldn't really see a difference, currently. So,
yeah, but
hold on. But you are making a legitimate argument. You do need one of these things because you're a pundit.
Exactly.
Don't tell him that.
This is
negative reinforcement, or it's never going to change.
This is
Jeff. You don't need it. Jeff, put it down.
I probably have
put
to
it
get
back
one
on the
of these
shelf.
things.
And if you're looking to sell your 1080, you might have a buyer over here.
Yeah,
that could offset the
That's
cost.
true.
I might
would
just run a
that would
mining
offset
rig.
the cost significantly.
So,
we need to cover what a mining rig might
I
look
didn't even
like
think
for
about
journalistic
that.
reasons.
Right.
What would you get for a 1080 these days on the used market? A couple of $100.
I think if you had sold it when the crypto stuff was still
back then,
viable, maybe we would have done it better. But if they've solved the supply problem,
I should have sold it when the market was peaking.
Yeah,
just tell people it's full of.
I probably
could have
got enough to buy the 2080 now.
Maybe shit.
looks like you could maybe get $400 to $500 on eBay.
That's not bad.
Maybe.
The other difference that I noticed is that when they launched the 1080, the Ti came after. Now they're launching them both together.
Yeah,
I don't know if that tells you anything, but it's interesting that they're launching everything at once. There's basically 3 different tiers: the 2080, the 2080 Ti, and the 2070, which I guess is the bargain option.
Yeah.
Well, there will probably be a 2060 that is more in the kind of.
I've heard so many numbers at this point. We have to move on.
Yeah.
I can't. My 10,
20.
20,
There you go.
80 Ti.
2080.
Yeah, Ti.
Ti 83 plus silver edition.
It's got a
You
picture.
can tell who's not the PC gamer.
Yeah.
I just want Mario.
You don't care about.
They
bits
should
and
sell.
blobs.
They should sell the 2080 Ti with a picture of Ti on it, and he should be there
Holding a
sold, ray
TI
traced lighting,
calculator.
holding a Ti calculator at the International, taking place on Treasure Island.
Okay. Hell yeah. All right.
Sold.
Hit all the bases.
You can have whatever you like with this graphics card.
Yeah. Speaking of the business, the financial analyst firm Cohen, I assume is how it's pronounced.
probably
Cowen or
Cohen.
Cohen. is out there saying that Battlefield 5 pre-orders are significantly underperforming.
How do they know?
To the extent, I think they have access to
They
data.
have people.
Okay.
Channel checks. And
They
so,
get-
they'll talk to retailers. They have a lot of different ways. They probably.
Amazon.
They have their ways.
They get numbers that we don't, but they're out there basically all but saying that, hey, the way things are going right now, Battlefield 5 is going to flop by the standards of the series, to the point that we are adjusting our forecasts for EA financials.
Yeah,
That's
like
a shame because I thought the trailer looked good.
I played it at E3 and it was the most I've enjoyed a Battlefield game since 4, I guess.
Okay.
In some time. So
But wasn't Battlefield 1 popular? Wasn't that successful?
Yes.
it seemed like it was. Yeah.
Yeah, even according to this, the numbers, I mean, I'll just tell you what they say. They say pre-orders for Battlefield 5 are tracking more than 85% behind Black Ops 4, which is substantially worse than previous instances.
I mean, in the battle of in the battle of Call of Duty versus Battlefield, Battlefield's always been in second place, right?
yeah, but it was a
Yeah.
lot closer. Like, so this says Battlefield 3 and 4 titles lagged behind Call of Duty by about 20 to 40%. And Battlefield 1 actually tracked ahead of Call of Duty at this point before launch.
And now
2 years ago.
now 85% behind. That is a big drop.
Yeah.
And I think, you kind of Battlefield 1's that reset, right? They take it back to kind of classic conflicts and all the other stuff. And so then what do you market Battlefield 5 as, except it's more of this, but a different theater of war. And you get to, hey, World War II is different than World War I. Like, yeah, I get it, but it's still that.
Also, it doesn't help that EA is EA.
Yep.
The most cursed company when it comes to
The Star Wars
Gamers.
Battlefront stuff, some of that probably lingers over this a
I
little
guarantee
bit too.
a huge amount of that still lingers. Like, especially if you're not, following the scene very closely. You hit the major games, you hear about what happened there, and it's like, oh, I'm not going to buy another EA game ever. And then, of course, it's not ever, but
Yeah.
that's enough to put people off of the company for a while.
And
Yeah,
Black Ops 4 hasn't even really shown very much yet, right?
They had a beta with some multiplayer, with just the competitive multiplayer. They haven't
Right.
shown their battle royale mode. They showed
Right.
a little bit of the zombie stuff.
I noticed that the Battlefield 5 trailer hinted at the Battle Royale,
Yeah, they teased that a little bit at the end there.
with the Ring of Fire at the end.
Yeah.
there's some really pointed quotes in this
From the analysts.
in this kind of analyst brief. With a release date directly in between Call of Duty and Red Dead Redemption, we worry that Battlefield 5 could be headed for a similar fate as 2016's Titanfall 2, which got squeezed out by its launch date directly between Battlefield 1 and Infinite Warfare. If we had to pick one game to be a casualty of the crowded October window, this would clearly be it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there certainly is Red Dead and.
I mean, Red Dead
Call of
is.
Duty hype.
I think that Red Dead is going to cast all before it asunder.
It's
No
why
matter what.
It's why so many games got out of this window.
Yeah, first quarter of next year.
Q1's
is
looking
packed
real good.
with games that probably
Yeah, I
got
noticed that.
pushed.
Division 2 is
Got pushed out of
Q1,
March.
right?
Yeah.
Like Anthem is out. Like
So even like delaying it's not going to necessarily, give them the bump that they need. I assume
They
that they
can't,
need
yeah.
it for this
Yeah,
fiscal quarter.
yeah, they
anyway.
can't.
I don't know why they
couldn't
just
afford to push
don't
it.
mutually agree to just separate out and just. I know everyone wants to be in that holiday spot, but
Gentleman's
like,
agreement.
yeah, or maybe EA just waves the white flag and says, you know what, we're going to start moving these Battlefield titles to March or April or something, and just get out of the way.
The thing is, I don't necessarily. I don't know that I would say that Battlefield's weakness is a direct result of Call of Duty's strength. Like I
you
don't
think the weaknesses are inherent?
Yeah, I think that this is probably has less to do with people being excited or not excited about Black Ops 4. Like that's.
But Battlefield 1 was good and people liked it. So
Yeah.
what's the issue?
I suspect it is largely just because it is another. It's you kind of look at it and it's kind of another one of those.
Yes.
Battlefield 1 over the course of its run probably did fine, but I just don't know that people are necessarily looking for another kind of classic war scenario thing right now. That it didn't seem that dramatically different to me, having played some Battlefield 1, not a ton of it, and then going back and playing Battlefield 5, which with it being a different conflict, it still feels like, hey, we made an old war Battlefield game.
Right.
And so I think there's some of that. I think, yeah, the stink of the Battlefront stuff, the loot box stuff probably doesn't help. The strength of Red Dead, I think, is actually probably a bigger deal here.
Yeah. That is
even if it's not a shooter. Also, they say 85%. Like that doesn't necessarily speak to Call of Duty's strength. Like Call of Duty might be down for all we know.
Yeah.
because I think the other thing that both these shooters are walking into is just identity issues related to Battle Royale's success, related to Fortnite, related to PUBG, more Fortnite, obviously.
And also in some self-inflicted ways, like Call of Duty is oscillating now between World War II and like future robot weird stuff.
It's like dramatically different.
Yeah,
I mean, this
like
may not get sorted out until we actually get a really good look at these games, because I think Battle Royale is going to be a really big, compelling factor, and it might just be who has the better execution of that this year.
Yeah,
and no one has any clue yet.
But it's Fortnite. Like maybe they'll have a better execution, but I don't see either of these games like coming up in the same way Fortnite did, because they're not free to play.
I don't necessarily think that they even have to come up the same way Fortnite did. It's more of like, if you're a Call of Duty guy and you like Fortnite or whatever now too, but you get the new Call of Duty and it happens to have a mode that is like Fortnite, if that can hold the player on there playing the game longer, maybe spending a little money on loot boxes, whatever, however they value it, if it has that compelling Battle Royale mode, I can see it making enough of a dent in Fortnite to be a success.
Yeah, but I think that's you're talking to people who will go in and buy the game already, and what they'll do post purchase. I'm more looking at it like, if you're playing Fortnite every day, do you even care about a new Battlefield game?
$60 on a new Battlefield
or a new Call of Duty at this point? Like that's, especially when Call of Duty killed their campaign and got further away from having things that separate it from. Now it kind of lives or dies by the quality of its multiplayer, which puts it even more in the path of games like Fortnite.
It's interesting to think just how much Fortnite might be leaching out of the overall paid shooter market in general. It's just taking all those players away.
It's just like
the casual players that would think about like, oh, maybe I'll get Call of Duty this year. Why would they ever think that? They're too
especially
busy playing Fortnite.
Because it's like, I have, I don't play a lot of Fortnite or a lot of PUBG, but I have a pool of 10 to 12 friends I could reliably get into a game if I needed to. And it's because it's free, right? They can just hop on at any time. And so now if I want to play with my shooter crew, we all have to get this new game at $60 a pop. And it's just not guaranteed
it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen the way it used to anyway.
Yeah.
It'll still happen to some extent. But I just look at it as that, as, Battlegrounds, Fortnite, that seems like it for, or I think we're seeing the end of the full price premium Call of Duty experience as the dominant form of shooter. That's not to say they won't go on to enjoy great profits this year and for years in the future, and the games will be whatever quality they are. They'll be good, they'll be bad, whatever. It's just, you used to be able to look at the Call of Duty 4 on as man, they really changed shooting. Well, shooting changed again, and they didn't change it. And they announced their Battle Royale mode, and the whole thing, they didn't say that much about it, but the best they could do at their reveal event for Black Ops was to say, yeah, we're doing Battle Royale, but we're doing it the Black Ops way. And you're like, what does that even mean?
What is the Black Ops way?
That's potentially
$60.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's potentially interesting to me, who still likes the basic shooting in a Call of Duty game.
Right.
That game, my interest in that game now lives and dies by the quality of their Battle Royale mode. Because I don't think I liked the multiplayer enough in the beta. I don't care about their zombie mode. But if that thing's got a really good hook to it, I could see myself
what about
kind
the
of getting into
story elements that exist in all forms of the game?
That's if it's not telling the story of the characters that matter from the actual Black Ops campaigns. That's not, what is that? I don't care about Sheamus looking WWE dude in the multiplayer mode or grenade launcher lady, and I'm amazed I could even pluck those two out.
Is there a really big guy who does a shockwave thing?
I do think it's going to be a really interesting story come the end of the year. Is the battle of the Battle Royale modes is who I think we all, it didn't take a genius to see it. I think we all predicted before even Fortnite became a success, after PUBG started tearing it up, everyone was saying, yeah, Ubisoft, Activision, EA, everyone's going to be getting in on this. There are meetings happening right now. Where are we on Battle Royale? And we're starting to see the first fruit of that. And I think I eagerly, because as a person who loves, I don't play Fortnite, but I love Battlegrounds and I play a ton of it. And to me, it's the most compelling evolution. Or as you said, they changed shooting with. I would suggest that the last great evolution of shooting games was Call of Duty 4, but the most recent massive evolution has been the evolution of the emergence of battle royale.
It's kind of to me, it's kind of the third big milestone. It basically goes Quake, Call of Duty 4, and now PUBG.
I would throw Half-Life in there.
I mean, specifically for multiplayer.
Yeah, for
online
multiplayer,
shooters.
certainly, yes.
Yeah, not for the whole genre.
So
but-
I mean, like instead, I might say Counter-Strike in that case,
Right.
because the more tactical round-based
sure,
stuff
sure.
like that, definitely you
Okay,
see the
yeah.
roots. You see those roots in, obviously something that is Arma derived in a weird way.
But it's the last. I think battle royale is certainly the last most recent kind of seismic shift in what we think of when
Like
we think
one
about
game you
shooters.
could point at and be like, "This is the one that changed."
This is
things."
where
Yes.
things diverged for sure.
Yes, and obviously you can go back even earlier and talk about Armor and H1Z1 and King of the Kill and stuff like that. But Battlegrounds was truly kind of ground zero for battle royale, kind of achieving mass popularity. Fortnite took it to the next level as well, and so it's interesting. I'm fascinated to see what happens when AAA developers get involved in this game. Do they fundamentally get it? Do they understand what it is about battle royale that people find compelling? How do they integrate it into their existing Call of Duty, Battlefield universes, which also try to do storytelling and environmental stuff? That to me, outside of Red Dead, is the thing that I'm most eager to see this year. Is how those competing battle royale modes stack up against one another, and that may end up being the deciding factor.
Yeah, I think and in some cases, I think it'll come down to like business factors. Like you could make the greatest battle royale mode, but I still think at this point, and it's not how I thought it would go, but I think if they make the best battle royale mode in this Black Ops 4 Blackout mode, and it's still a $60 game, it's not gonna be the #1 game in the world. They will need to find a way to get that out to more people and monetize it differently, which I think, in a world where a Call of Duty game is coming out with like no single player campaign at all, I would argue that they should be searching for new ways to split that thing up and sell it differently and make it a platform instead of an annual game. Or like this is now more than ever, until next year when they say, hey, campaign is back, because that's how this will go.
Right.
But looking at it right now, you go like, man, they could be selling zombie season passes forever. They could be really quadrupling down on this blackout mode and still doing the traditional multiplayer for people who want that. Like, there's different ways to monetize this.
Do you think in these battle royale games, either of them are going to get nearly as creative as we've seen with the Fortnite like skins in dances and emotes? Because like they've penetrated the public in such a way. I mean, the game obviously is huge and it's going to seep out in lots of ways, but like, are we going to see an MLB player doing a battle royale, Call of Duty battle royale dance? Like, probably not.
Activision could pay a baseball player to do that.
Man, that is the saddest thing I've ever heard.
No, I loaded up Call of Duty World War II yesterday, and it gave me a skin that makes all my guns look like they were made out of watermelon, because they were having a summer event.
Okay.
Like, they've been weird on skins for years. But in terms of penetration, that's an install-based thing. That's a thing you get by having your game be free and good and popular and all the stuff that Fortnite struck with. Right time, right place, like all that other, Fortnite's a perfect storm.
Here's another question.
And the storm is closing in on 100 players. No.
So Fortnite is also tremendously good about patches. They are constantly adding stuff in that community wants. And do you think like the huge company like Activision can be as responsive?
If they have the resources, I mean, Activision certainly would have the resources of an Epic to do it. It's just a matter of like
they'll dole the stuff out on a very regimented schedule and charge $10 to $20 for each one.
Yeah, that would be the way that because they're still selling a season pass for Black Ops, so they're already kind of locked in with some of that stuff. And I don't know what Battlefield will do. Like they hinted at it, and we heard a while back that they were like kind of testing something and thinking about what Battle Royale might mean in the Frostbite engine. But I don't think they've come out and said, hey, here's what we're doing.
I don't think so.
So we don't even know what they'll do, if anything.
I suspect that they will leave nothing on the table in terms of what they think is necessary to try and emulate the success.
Especially if they're not hitting the numbers they need to hit, they're going to go fucking balls out.
Well, the emotes will be there. All of that's the skins, all of the things that they look. Well, okay, what are the things that are key components of PUBG and to an even greater extent Fortnite's success? What are the things, like you talked about, the World Cup soccer players were doing the Fortnite emotes and stuff like that. That's when you realize you were dealing with something truly mainstream that had crossed over. They will do all of those things, but while doing them all, I think they will miss the two things that have made Fortnite truly phenomenal in its success. One is that it's free, and you can't say enough, we can't talk about that enough. It's free, it's free, it's free.
And it runs on anything.
And it's on every platform. And this is the other thing. It's adjacent to that. Is that even though kids play Call of Duty when they really shouldn't, because these are M-rated games, Fortnite, it looks harmless. It looks like Team Fortress 2. It looks like harmless fun in a way that there's no barrier to kids
There's
playing.
shooting, but there's no blood. There's no like death.
And even Battlegrounds, it's very, very photo. I mean, obviously the graphics are not super, super high end, but you know, when you shoot, when you get into a gunfight in Battlegrounds, that looks and feels real, and that's why it's intense.
The sounds too.
I would not let my 10-year-old kid play Battlegrounds in a way that I probably would let them play Fortnite. Because I can go, it looks harmless, it's colorful, it's fun, it's basically animated, it's cartoon shooting, and I think that part doesn't get talked about enough when we talk about why Fortnite's been very successful.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's at some point shit changed, and like you can look at these Battlefield numbers, and I think that's got to be a factor. I wonder if that's whatever. As people leave companies for a lot of reasons.
Yeah,
but,
I was going to say, worth pointing out, this news comes hot on the heels of Patrick Soderlund departing from EA. They're the head of their worldwide studios, who
was
fucking bank
was
on his way out,
but was receiving a lot of criticism over the course of the past year in the event of the loot box fiasco.
I think the biggest reason that his departure made so much news is that people dug into the SEC filings and saw that they had paid him $20 million to try to retain him, and he still bounced. But then, looking back at kind of the last 2-3 years of his tenure, like Battlefront 2 fiasco, the Star Wars game, the closing of Visceral Games,
Do you think EA,
Battlefield is kind of
EA struggling?
Like, I don't know.
I think they're struggling to find an identity. I think on the business front, and I bet on the business front, a lot of that stuff gets propped up by FIFA and FIFA Ultimate Team. So loot boxes are probably driving a lot of that company's revenue these days, right? I mean, if I had to guess. And, you know, all that's worked its way into the UFC game and Madden. You know, they all have their Ultimate Team equivalent, so they can sell you packs of cards. And that flies under the radar because I think people understand the very like, oh, packs of cards. That's, of course, they're blind packs. And they get by in a different way than Star Wars did. I think they've just, they've had a string of, I was going to say bad luck, but, you know, it's decisions that they made in those games. The last few Need for Speed games have been really far off. And that last one that came out had loot box problems of its own. So I think they just, you know, they haven't really been coming up with great new franchises. Their old franchises are getting drugged through the mud in different ways.
Completely forgot about Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh, right, yeah.
Just
Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh, God, don't remind me. I'm so depressed.
The output on almost every front.
As a huge fan of the Mass Effect franchise. What a bummer.
And I forgot about Need for Speed, too. Like, it's just kind of been one thing after another.
And
I'm telling you, Road Rash is the answer to all their fucking problems. It's the magic bullet that can save EA.
Just throwing a chain into the bike spokes.
Put out Road Rash for the 3DO, just like they're putting out a 24-year-old DICE game made for the Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
How's that for a segue?
That was a better one than the last one. I like that one. That was better than the hot dogs.
Basically, in happier news, I'd never heard about this, but DICE, like straight up Battlefield DICE, back in the early 90s.
Pinball Fantasies DICE or Pinball Dreams, whatever it was.
They did that? They did pinball games? Holy shit.
Back
for the Amiga.
Wow.
I think it was, 94. 1994, they had a Genesis/Mega Drive game called Hardcore, basically finished, ready to ship, and Psygnosis, who was the publisher, killed it at the last second.
Wow.
And that
You're
game
hitting all my nostalgia buttons right now with the Psygnosis.
And that game is finally coming out.
Like as is? It's not a remaster or anything? They're just releasing it?
A studio called, where's the name of the studio? And they're in Germany. It's got to, Strictly Limited Games. It's a small studio in Germany which features one of the founders of DICE.
And on what platforms will it be released?
So it's coming out on PS. Well, so it's weird. They are going to finish it on on Genesis development hardware with the actual Genesis SDK.
Oh wow!
But then once they finish it, they are then going to port it to the Vita and the PS4.
I thought you said it was finished though.
It was like 99% finished, is what they're saying.
So they just need to tighten it up.
They need to clean it up a little bit.
And then it will be on current platforms.
Yeah.
So
that's right. They're going to add the monetization.
I don't know if this has all been spelled out, but the thought is because Sony bought Psygnosis and has their whole catalog, that's why it's coming out on the PS4 and the Vita, because Sony basically owns it as part of the Psygnosis catalog. But yeah, like they put a trailer out. They describe it as a, what's the phrase, a Euro-style 2D shooter.
Such a good term for that.
Yeah, because it brings to mind exactly what kind of game
this
is.
It's like Turrican.
Yeah.
I was going to say Turrican was the first thing that came to mind.
You should look at this trailer, you're like, oh, it's like Turrican.
The trailer looks exactly like one of those types of games.
I hope it has like a Euro 90s shooter soundtrack and everything. That's what I want. I want that Psygnosis feel.
I think you're going to get exactly that from the sound of it.
Even the title, Hardcore, it sounds like
Yeah.
a game that should have been released in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like apparently it was in magazine spreads. There was preview coverage
wow.
out there before it
I
got
wonder
canceled.
I like this is kind of a nice little story. I like this.
Yeah.
This game's going to see the light of day.
And I wonder if since they're finishing it up on a Genesis SDK, are they ever going to release that
you think
version?
there would be a card?
that's the thing. If they're
Can I get this on a cart?
Might be something they could do as a limited edition kind of thing.
Yeah.
That-
That would be like I'm normally not into limited edition physical versions of digital games, but this would be a case where it'd be like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's a game,
It's such a-
Tanglewood, I think it's called. It just came out on Steam, but it is a Genesis game. They're selling physical carts as well. The Steam version is basically an emulated Genesis,
Huh.
Really?
and you can get the ROM out of it and play it
I
on
was-
whatever emulator you want, or
Yeah.
put it on a flash card, or like they're just kind of like putting it out there that way. If you don't want to go buy the physical cartridge.
Was this also never released? Oh, or is this a brand new game?
I believe
made on
this
the
is a
Genesis?
new game
Okay.
developed for the Genesis.
I've seen that.
It's this is just a weird, cool story.
Makes you wonder
It's a
how many
little
other
feel-good
games
thing.
like that are sitting around
Yeah.
that
They
never
never
saw the
got-
light of day,
yeah.
ready to ship.
There's
Hidden in the ceiling somewhere.
There's a. I guess it'd be more than one might think. I guess. Well, there was a company called Limited Run Games that was picking up prototypes and releasing them as reproductions and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I was looking at a Sega CD game called Bug Blasters recently. It was supposed to originally be called The Exterminators. It's this terrible FMV light gun game looking thing.
Excellent.
The FMV quality of the Sega CD and just like the acting is just fucking atrocious.
Yes.
But it had like Sony copyrights on it because Sony ImageSoft was going to put it out in '94, and they were like, "Oh, no one wants this. This is terrible." And so someone found it, saved it. I don't know if they did it legally or if they just said, "Ah, we're going to sell these" or what. But
No one
it's
will
out
care.
there. It's out there if you want to see it.
I
bad.
I do.
It's bad.
All right, a couple more stories real fast. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, the Castlevania spiritual successor from Koji Igarashi, has been delayed into next year,
Not super surprised.
which puts it at 2 years after their original ship date from the Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
So
And they canned the Vita version.
And they canceled the Vita version.
I mean, that's due to just like, Sony pulling back.
Yeah,
on the,
yeah. Like I saw that and I was like, oh, they
on the
can't.
Vita.
Are they still
Can't-
manufacturing the Vita?
No,
I
that's
think
what
they're
they.
done.
So well, the quote they gave is, "This decision is largely due to Sony's plan to discontinue the Vita console, ending production of physical copies, and stopping certain online store support features."
Which I feel like that's the first time any of that about stopping online
Yeah.
store
Yeah.
features. I feel like that's
Yeah,
I haven't really heard
'Cause-
that.
Okay,
They just
so-
need to put a bullet in its head.
let's look at these two stories here. That Project Hardcore game, when's that coming out?
let me see.
2019.
Yes.
It's not out this year.
Yes.
Just like Bloodstained.
Uh huh.
Announced for Vita.
Uh huh.
Mhm.
Huh.
Bloodstained.
Yeah.
Canned for Vita with fingers pointed at Sony. I'm not going to say that Sony is like standing by the Vita. They have been done with the Vita for
They haven't said it at the
a
last
lot
two E3s.
a lot longer than I think even people. They've been done with the Vita for a while.
Sure.
The Vita has been moribund for a long time.
Yeah, and
yes.
it's still getting some visual novels. There's still. It's not to say that there are 0 releases coming out for the Vita, but it's been a wrap on the Vita for some time. So
I think what you're saying is for them to blame the
for
demise
them
of
to
the Vita
blame the demise of the Vita
the same
for-
time that a new Vita
because
game is being
when
announced.
they kickstarted this and announced it as a Vita game, it was already too late to make a Vita game.
Yeah.
Who will
So-
who will have the distinction of making the last game ever made for the Vita? 'Cause
Greg
it's gotta
Miller,
be
he's
soon.
going to develop
Greg
and
Miller,
release.
yeah.
He deserves to ship the last Vita game.
Yeah,
He
that's
should.
probably true.
And he'll be the last person to buy it too.
yeah.
To their credit, they say, hey, if you kickstarted the Vita version of the game, you can pick another platform or get your money back.
Or get a
So,
refund.
That's fair enough.
yeah, so
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're not out.
Yeah, I don't think they're leaving anyone in the lurch or,
God,
or anything like that.
That would
but,
be so fucked if they didn't.
Is it announced for Switch? Yes,
No,
it is.
it
It
is.
is.
Okay,
It is,
yeah.
yes. So, I mean, if you want a portable version of that game, you should play it on Switch anyway.
I mean, that feels like a natural way to go from a moribund handheld to
Yeah.
one that actually has some life in it.
Totally. But I don't know. There's something like, and I don't know the specifics, but something about their reasoning for canning the Vita version does not strike me as, I don't know. That doesn't.
On
That
the
sounds
level?
fishy to me.
Yeah.
I would say.
I feel like they were probably already like on the fence about their Vita version, and then it talks about, hey, maybe we have to delay this game, was just the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, and maybe at some point they were like, "Hey, how many people on Kickstarter chose the Vita version?" And
Oh,
they're like,
6?
12.
Yeah.
Like,
Also,
okay.
that may not be an easy port. Like the Vita is a fucking old, slow piece of hardware at this point. That may not be the easiest port.
That sounds like the reactions to the last backer demo they put out were mixed.
They straight up cited the reactions to the backer demo as the reason they're taking more time.
I feel like they need a lot of polish, right?
Yeah.
That's the word they
I feel like every time I've seen that game, which has been like 2, maybe 3 times now, I think, I just look at it and go like, it's not bad, but it doesn't. Especially, we talk about the stakes being raised with all of the similar type of games coming out right now in terms of your Dead Cells and Guacamelee, like
especially
that
if you have
style
a
of
pedigree
game.
like this.
Yeah, pedigree like this of like, hey, from the creator of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, you look at it and you go, this looks like it was made by the creator of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but also not a lot of other people backing him up to make a lot of it look good and all that other stuff. Like the basics of it seem like they're there. The bones of it are in place, but it just seems like it needs a lot more.
Was cool.
Yeah, that was neat. But a different team, like all that, it was like all sorts of different stuff there.
Did you know he was only the assistant director on Symphony of the Night?
That seems.
I saw that recently. Like he has gained such a reputation as being the guy.
Yeah. They put him. He had the whip. They don't just give the whip to anybody.
but he was.
You can't do interviews holding a whip and wearing a hat unless you're the guy. All right.
I mean, that's not to say he wasn't instrumental in the creation of Symphony of the Night, but he was not the head guy.
I wouldn't necessarily always look at the way Japanese games use titles to determine much of anything there, but I don't know in that specific case. So.
All right, last story real fast. THQ Nordic has bought the Time Splitters license.
Woo! New Time Splitters. I'm okay with that.
They kind of didn't say much more than that, other than you'll hear from us soon.
Yeah,
right. They just
100
now bought the
monkeys.
licenses, so
they got it from Crytek.
Okay,
who Crytek had bought Free Radical, right?
Yes,
which
became Crytek UK,
right?
I think.
Curious to know how much an IP like what is an IP like Time Splitters worth? Like what was the check that they wrote for that?
I bet it was. I think it was less than 7 figures.
Oh yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
probably.
I was going to say like 50 grand or something.
Whoa, man!
I know that sounds derisory, but I mean, was Time Splitters
we
ever a
should have
huge
bought
deal?
the Time Splitters license, and
yeah,
done
we could
something with it.
have had a whip round, and everyone throws their money in, and we could have bought it. I mean, was Time Splitters ever a big deal?
It was pretty popular at one time.
It was like the spiritual
It was
successor to
never
GoldenEye.
it was
in a
never
way,
A tier though. It was never
but it had a pretty devoted following. They also picked up Second Sight, Free Radical's other kind of big game from back then.
Yeah.
Oh, which one was that?
It's
it's a psychic one.
Yeah, it's a psychic
it was
power.
like
it's almost like a
Psyops,
psyops
but
kind
not
of game.
as good.
Not as good as Psyops.
Yeah,
if I remember right.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. People, there are definitely people that every so often pipe up with. They should make a new Time Splitters.
See, I have huge nostalgia for Time Splitters, but I feel like it was more of a nostalgia for that era of video games in general, of like couch multiplayer shooters that you play with your friends at a sleepover, and the game is whatever, it's what you have, and you have fun with it. But
I did not have a lot of patience for a split screen first person shooter back then. I have significantly less now.
What's the most valuable IP in gaming?
In all of gaming?
I was about to say Star Wars, but
probably
maybe EA
probably,
fucked that up.
Probably
Mario?
Nintendo stuff.
Mario,
probably
yeah.
Mario.
GTA?
That's tough.
Hasn't
actually.
GTA been in the top 20? Like,
And with the amount of money they're still making off their online stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what is GTA as a property? You know, because every game has different characters. Like there is not like Mario is a character.
Mario can extend into like
GTA.
licensing.
I guess if I wanted to play this safe bet, and I'm banking my retirement on this, I'd go with Mario.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, a humble plumber from New York, and
I
look at him
know
now.
from humble Brooklyn, and look at the heights that he's ascended to. Married a princess, most valuable IP in gaming.
Taught you how to type.
Yeah, I know.
Got his brother a nice job.
I
like,
know. Even that's a nice thing, right? Even helped his brother out.
Yeah.
He was missing for a while, but they found him.
Oh my God.
It's a him. All right. How are the bladders? Can we move into emails?
I could use a break actually.
All right. Let's take a 2-minute break. We'll be right back.
Cool.
All right, let's do a wee handful of emails
Just
before we get out of here. That means a little bit.
A little bit.
Bombcast@giantbomb.com. That's the email address. The first one comes in from Jeremy in Singapore.
Hi.
Who is the best Mr. in all of video games? Need your expert opinions to weigh in. Is it Mr. Rossetti, Mr. Domino, Mr. Driller, Mr. Do, Mr. Do?
Too many examples.
Feel free to nominate your own superior misters.
Mr.
When
Mosquito.
writing in with a who is the best blank, you can't give that many examples because you're taking them away from us. I was
You
going to
just
say
have to-
Domino, but
You can agree.
Domino.
You can agree with it.
no.
I think
I want to
Mr.
look like a
Mosquito.
smart guy.
I was going to say, damn it, you
Sorry.
stole it.
Sorry.
Mr. T.
Mr. Mosquito.
Mr. T's pretty good.
Mr. Shakedown.
I did think. This
Oh
was,
yeah.
I do think this is. I saw this question. I thought, what a good question. I
Yeah.
never thought about that before.
Yeah.
But who is the best Mister in video games?
We
Because there are many.
researched it and made
Yeah.
a whole list.
I'm going to go Domino because no one can stop him.
Are there any
Yeah.
obvious ones that we're missing?
I'm trying to think. Like, yeah, Mr. Shakedown's a really good one.
Mr. Anderson.
There you go.
I guess technically, yes. I'm gonna go. I
Is
mean,
that an
it's,
alias
it's
in
an
the
obvious
wiki?
choice, but I'm gonna go with
if
Mr.
only
Do.
if only there were a popular video game wiki.
Yeah. Mr. Do
That I could
is a
consult.
fantastic choice. Yeah, just go to flip
he's
to
a fucking
characters, type in
clown.
Mr.
How is
Screw that guy.
Rory is going to crash in the door and say Mr. Shifty?
What did you do?
man.
What did you do in Mr. Do? Remind me what that game
You were a
was.
dumb clown, right?
You were a great clown.
Nope.
You were. You
Were
had
you
to,
floating around on balloons or
No,
something?
it was in the original Mr. Do. It was like a dig dug scenario. You could dig in the dirt,
Yes.
were enemies.
Now I remember.
and
You're a
you
clown
collected.
digging around
You
in the
collected
dirt.
all the fruit to end the
You're
level.
collecting all the dirt fruit.
Or you
as a
killed all the
clown.
enemies. Unlike Dig Dug, where you could pump them up, you had a ball, and you would shoot the ball, and it would bounce around the tunnels and hit them.
It's a
Okay.
terrible game.
And then there was Mr. Do's Castle, which was also very good. And then every Mr. Do game after that has been
Mr. Do's
less
Castle,
good.
I think I probably remember better than Mr.
Yeah.
Do.
Great
And-
music. Great music in Mr. Do's Castle.
This wiki is proving indispensable.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what do you got? What do you got?
Mr. Fantastic, Mr. Freeze, Mr. Perfect, Mr.
You-
Frost,
How
Mr.
dare,
Perfect, yeah.
how dare you
Perfect.
skip over Mr. Game & Watch?
Mr. Big, Mr. Rabbit, Mr. Potato Head,
Of course.
Mr. X from Streets of Rage.
Mr. Big.
In terms of games that had the title Mr. Something, there weren't really that many, though, were there? It was the Mr. Do's, and that was pretty much
What
it.
is, what is the
Mr.
other
Shifty.
Mr. Do? DU?
So, yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
Long story short, I don't know. If you ask MAME, it is a bootleg of Mr. Do with the title screen modified to make it a U instead of an O.
Okay.
What would be the point of that?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
They did that a lot. Like Donkey Kong became Crazy Kong when they were making illegal bootlegs of it. They would
Oh, I
modify
see.
things
I see.
to take the name out or the copyright.
Like Robot Man.
Yeah,
Or Robot Cop. You ever see that action figure,
Yeah,
that
right.
knockoff action
And
figure?
then so the weird thing about the Mr. Do thing is that the Super Nintendo version of Mr. Do has a secret code in it that when you enter it, it changes the title screen to say Mr. Do to Mr. Du.
So it's got both ROMs on there.
Well, it's not an emulated thing.
Right,
it's just
I
a
suppose,
it's just a little
one
graphical
tiny change,
hack
yeah.
that makes the change. And I don't know if that's a sign that Mr. Du is actually an official thing that maybe they used, or if maybe the person who was porting Mr. Do to the SNES
Yeah.
had a fondness for this specific bootleg and included a weird
Little
code to
wink and
do
a
it.
nod.
I don't.
Huh. That's strange.
I don't
Holy
know.
shit.
This is going to sound only because it's from the same era, but I've been watching a lot of Twitch retro streamers lately, and I've been watching some old arcade classics that I had not, I knew by name, but had not really ever seen played. And I saw someone streaming Burger Time recently, and I thought,
Yeah.
what a clever mechanic for a game.
Yeah.
I really like how you
Burger
can
Time's
stack the
awesome.
different burger components. I just
And
thought it was really cool.
Those are all Misters. That's
Yeah.
Mr. Egg, Mr. Pickle,
Mr.
Mr.
Hot
Hot
Dog.
Dog. And if they're walking on the piece when you drop it, it drops more spaces.
Right.
So you kind of have like a reason to play it risky.
I was watching someone play it the other day, and the streamers usually are pretty good at the game. They know it by the time they're streaming it, and he
That's
was
the
doing.
first mistake.
Well, he was doing really well, and it was a mechanic that I'd not seen, and it actually seemed like a really advanced gaming mechanic for a period of gaming where we was mostly doing very, very simplistic things. I thought it was clever.
This is a little foreshadowing for our after show. If you're watching live, we might be talking about Burger Time a little bit.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wait,
Oh wow,
how do you know?
What a coincidence!
How do you know what people are going to call in about?
because I have voicemails, Brad.
right.
Yeah, we take questions from a variety of sources.
That's right. I don't care about Clay Fighter, but the last thing I'll say is I think Bad Mr. Frosty
Bad
is.
Mr.
but-
Frosty.
Oh god, that came up
Pretty good
yesterday as
name.
well. I was playing. Oh no, we were watching Diddy's Conquest
Yeah.
on another Twitch stream over the weekend, and my wife said, "I wish somebody would stream Clay Fighter," and I was like, "Why?
Because it's better than playing Clay Fighter.
Seriously? What isn't?"
Yeah.
Speaking of names,
Clay Fighter. Clay Fighter.
Jason Masters writes in and says, "My last name is Masters. While,
Pretty cool.
while growing up, having the last name of Masters is pretty brutal. However, once you get older, you get tons of comments about how awesome it is, or people straight up don't believe it's actually my name."
What's the brutal part?
I imagine it'd be
see
kids
it.
talking about masturbating.
Masturbating,
that's,
yeah.
That's primarily what I assume.
Which doesn't sound that brutal to me, but
Eh, you know,
what
We
you
call
gonna
him
do?
Master Blaster.
Oh, what a burn.
Yeah.
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 I was a
kids are
big time
cruel.
bully, you know.
Yeah,
Just
no,
like-
you had the height for it.
Yeah.
You know, you're
very
most of the way
cruel.
there.
I'm with this guy. I think it's a pretty awesome.
That is
Yeah.
cool.
name to have.
I used to, when I grew up in England, there was a TV show called Captain Pugwash, and it was a cartoon show about a pirate. And I believe it turned out to be apocryphal, but for the longest time, there was an urban myth going around that there were two members of Captain Pugwash's crew who were named Master Bates and Seaman Staines.
Jesus. Just a myth, though.
Yeah, someone will wiki it for us and confirm, I'm sure. I believe it turned out to be apocryphal, yes. Too good to be true.
That's good. That's good. Whatever shitty teen thought of that is
Yeah,
deserves
they
credit
did a
in my
good.
book.
They did a good job.
Yes, well, good job, shitty
yeah.
teen.
Wherever you are now.
Let's see, a couple more quick emails before we run out of time. Simon from Oslo. What if Rockstar are pulling a Kojima and Arthur Morgan is just a pre-release ruse invented to hide the real eldritch truth that the playable character in Red Dead Redemption 2 is actually a young John Marston? That would explain why Morgan is never mentioned in the first game. Just think about it.
What's the
Was
Kojima reference? What was the bait and switch there?
So, I mean, you know the Raiden thing from Metal Gear Solid 2.
I remember that, but was it
So
presented as being something else prior to that?
Yeah.
They doctored.
They show every
scenes.
trailer. They only showed Solid Snake as being a playable
Yeah,
character.
so they
Okay.
showed like boss fights from the final game where you're playing as Raiden, except they had swapped in the Snake model.
Oh, wow. So they
So
really
they-
went out of their way
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
to sneak it past
Yeah,
you. Okay.
yeah. So,
I mean, would that address why this guy looks nothing like John Marston?
well, I think he's just suggesting a similar thing of just
Oh.
this is like not even what the real game looks like.
Hmm.
That, I don't know. I guess I could respect that.
And if Rockstar would really go that far out of their
It's
way,
it's
would
a
they?
weird
To
like
what game?
Yeah, like that wouldn't like that's not a big surprise. It really is the same character you played in the first game. Like that's not interesting.
yeah.
So yeah.
And it's a weird bait and switch to play in a thing that's not attempting to be subversive
It doesn't
from the looks of it.
doesn't seem like it's Rockstar's style
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I
yeah.
agree.
I'll
Somebody,
happily just talk about Red Dead until Red Dead comes out,
yeah,
though.
I'm with you. Yeah, it's one of my favorite games ever.
Just do some cowboy stuff. Just get some baked beans going.
Yeah,
or
get some
something.
get some beans and some tins
Yeah.
going. Get a little campfire cookout.
Kick a horse.
Yeah.
Ride a cowboy.
Scott from Oklahoma City. Why isn't there a No Limit Records fighting game or Streets of Rage style beat 'em up? The No Limit aesthetic is perfect for video games, and Master P was into everything else in the 90s, so what gives?
Master P was working on an announced Grand Theft Auto style game.
Really?
Uh,
Like recently or back then?
like still, if you there was a radio interview I heard with him. I want to say sometime last year, where he brought it up and talked about it again. But there was a news story years ago. I want to say like 2007-ish. That was Master P to get into video games.
Yeah, here it is in 2016.
And it just
still talking
and
about
it just kind of persisted. There was like a name of the game. There was like various concept
the
art
game
on a
will
website.
be called Get Money.
Get Money. That's what it is.
Get
Yes,
money.
something we can all believe in.
Fuck, that's such a good name for
That
a
is
video
a great
game.
Yeah.
title for a game. What do you do in that game?
I
Get money.
I have no idea.
Oh man.
What's
What
the
do
objective?
you do once you have money? I don't know. What do you do once you have money? Anything.
Get
It's
more
it's a
money.
Pac-Man ROM hack where the dots have been replaced with dollar signs.
Listen to the pitch for the game. If you make the right choices, you get the money. but if you make the wrong choices, it's death, jail, or destruction, just like in the real world.
I was going to say, this is like the philosophy of life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah. That's I don't know.
That is some Zen level wisdom
I need
right
to
there. If you make
reevaluate
the right
everything.
choices, you get money.
When you ride on the no limit tank, Master P will impart some wisdom upon you.
I was going to say that's why there's no fighting game because it's not fair when
Is this
you just have a tank.
is this a
Yeah.
game that was announced but then never came to
yeah,
fruition?
it's never even. Who knows if it's even ever
Fuck,
entered
I'm really-
active
Has a
development.
publisher.
I'm really,
Yeah.
really sad
Developer.
now to know that could have been a game. Somewhere there's a parallel universe where that game came out
Yeah.
Yeah.
and everyone's getting money.
And somehow like Midway published it. It seems like a game they would have made.
At least we got 50
PS2
Cent blood
era.
in the sand.
Yeah.
I won't be happy until there's actually a game or a movie or something, particularly a game that's called Get Money. Someone
Right.
just has to do that now.
Jeffrey from Indianapolis.
He plays a Twitch streamer.
Yeah.
And death, destruction, or
Or jail.
jail await you if you.
In the pits of a YouTube rabbit hole today, I saw a news video from 1991 in which analysts predicted Nintendo was likely finished due to the fact that they'd already put a console in nearly one of every 3 homes in the country, and consumers weren't likely to buy a newer and better console for twice the price.
Word?
My question is, do analysts ever get any predictions right? They seemingly have always been useless. How do I get a job making predictions that couldn't be more
So what we're saying is the Battlefield pre-orders are fine.
through the roof?
Have we
I'm
ever
sure.
had Pacta here on the Bombcast?
We've had
recently.
Pactor on a few times over the years.
at
Yeah,
E3 and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, there's tons of news reports you can go find of like parents furious being
Right,
interviewed
it's
by
great.
local news, just like fucking furious
I
at the
can't believe I
idea.
got to buy a new thing to
Yeah,
play the games.
at the
Why
idea
can't I
of-
just play the games
You
on my
can-
thing?
I mean, you can go down a Google hole in 5 seconds and find 100 very well respected who are still working today, tech bloggers and journalists and analysts, all saying that the iPhone was going to be a complete disaster.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And they said so with 100% conviction. Steve Ballmer is still legendarily known for
Yeah.
saying that the iPhone will never do the kind of business that Microsoft could do with Windows Phone.
Well,
There's a whole spiel that
He's
that
right,
will-
just in the wrong way.
Yes, very much so.
The thing about
iPhone
it,
could never do business that
Yeah.
bad.
the thing about analysts is they're not often in the public eye. They're like the people out there, guiding companies, giving reports to companies and stuff. So it's easy when like they make a big claim that's like, hey, this thing's going to happen. Or, sometimes there's more outspoken ones than other ones. But I feel like most of the dudes who are just analysts work at a desk. They print out reports. They're like, write whatever % of the time that's acceptable in their field, which is probably more somewhere between 50 and 75.
Anything above 50, basically.
Yeah.
Then you're just coming out ahead.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you're in the business of having to constantly predict the future, you're going to get it wrong a bunch
yeah,
of the
totally.
time.
It's like this almost reads like people complaining about the weather forecast to me. Like, fucking, of course they don't always get it right.
Oh my God! There was a famous story in the UK. It was a weatherman called Michael Fish. I remember this as a kid, and it was the most famous weather forecasting fail of all time. It was really weird. He
Did
was
you say it wasn't going to be foggy?
Well, he was he was standing in front of the weather map. You can go on YouTube and find this right now. I think if you just Google Michael Fish, it will come right up because it's the thing he's most infamous for. He said, interesting. He was doing the weather forecast. He said, an interesting point. We just had a random phone call from an old lady in like some English village saying that England's going to have a terrible, terrible storm tonight. Well, don't worry, there isn't. That's not going to happen. It's just, we thought it was interesting. And that night, there was one of the biggest storms in English history. Wow. And it came out of nowhere, and not a single meteorologist saw it coming. But some old lady who called into the BBC saw it and predicted it.
Came out of that
but
old lady's cauldron.
the official BBC weatherman made a point of saying, that's not going to happen. Don't worry about that. That's just an interesting thing that somebody called in with.
Her knee was
And-
acting up.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. I don't know. Yeah, it was literally that. It's like, there's water
We
on
have
the knee or something.
science. Like, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
But in this case, science got it wrong.
It happens.
It does happen. But yeah, if you're, I mean, I'm sure anyone around this table, if someone was willing to put in the time, could put together a pretty epic supercut of all the things we've all gotten wrong in our
Oh,
prognostications.
totally. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
not me.
It's
I've never gotten anything wrong.
All right.
You're the exception, of
Yeah.
course.
yeah. Good
I
going.
just
Keep
don't.
it that
I
way.
don't
you
ever
don't-
predict
Don't
anything.
ever predict
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
Okay, 2 more quick emails.
If you just predict everything, then people eventually go, "I can't believe you got that right," and then you're like, "Yep."
Yeah.
And then everyone forgets the 10 wrong things.
All right, Chris from Germany. So I've been thinking, this is about Alameda and Star Trek 4.
Okay.
I've been
Great.
thinking, just how likely is it that someone who lived in San Francisco for 4 years of higher education could not know where Alameda is? I am, of
Extremely
course,
unlikely.
referencing Star Trek 4, where Chekhov and Uhura seem completely clueless about the existence or location of Alameda, where the nuclear vessels are.
They live in the future. Maybe Alameda doesn't exist in
It
their
says
eyes.
they both studied at Starfleet Academy, right? Does Alameda meet some doom between now and the 23rd century?
It is an
And
island.
isn't
like, it
Starfleet
could just-
Academy like on the bay, kind of like?
It is. Starfleet Academy is on the site of what we currently think of as the Presidio.
Yeah.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
So you could probably see Alameda from there.
So Star Trek's going to come in and crush Star Wars
Isn't that-
and take it over and put Starfleet
Yeah,
right there?
basically,
God,
yeah.
I
Star
never thought
Trek
about
will Starfleet Academy will pave over Lucasfilm.
Hell yeah!
That's
No,
also
that's interesting. That's an interesting
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
That
I've
the
never thought of
Presidio is, in its own way, both the home of Star Trek and Star Wars.
Huh. Yeah. Weird. That's also where the Federation is also the seat of government is also there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Starfleet Command and Starfleet Academy are both there
Oh,
for
is
sure.
that
I
what
don't know
it
about
is?
the Federation.
Okay, maybe you're right.
That might not even be on Earth.
Yeah,
Or because
okay.
I'm not sure. I don't remember if Earth is actually the capital of the Federation or not. But yeah, it's possible that Alameda was destroyed in the Third World War.
Yeah.
For those who don't
Oh,
know,
yeah.
Alameda is an island connected to Oakland, so it's like right in the middle, kind of the
If you
bay.
lived in the Bay Area, you would know where Alameda
Yeah.
is. I think is the point that the guy's making.
artificial or no?
What's that?
Is Alameda artificial?
I don't think so.
That's Treasure Island.
It's it's not a place. If there's if ever another big one, it's not a place you want to be. I know that.
Okay.
Because when we were house
Uh-oh.
shopping for a while, we looked at some places in Alameda, and then my wife did some research and said, "Oh yeah, like in the event of a big earthquake, like the marina,
Huh.
all the places that are built on landfill are basically going down."
Yeah.
Yikes.
Huh.
Okay.
I like that place. Well liked.
I like Alameda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see it like that. I
Slower pace over
There's a
there.
good,
weird
there's a
small
good
town vibe.
Applebee's there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, I know
what-
that.
I would think of it as like how was it Demolition Man had San Angeles? Like they
Yeah.
talk about these enormous cities that end up connecting San Francisco and Los Angeles in some way. Like I just envisioned it as like, San Francisco just eventually grows to a point where you don't call it Alameda anymore.
Right,
It's just some
right.
part of San Francisco.
Right.
So anyone in Chekhov's and in their actual time,
Yeah, it's called East
Wouldn't know.
Beach now or something.
yeah, it's just
All right. Last email from Dylan in Canada. A friend of mine recently ordered a bulk assortment of stickers. I managed to find one in the pack that really made me wonder if this is a conspiracy or a strange coincidence, as it's Garfield holding what basically looks like your logo. I've attached a photo for you guys to see.
Oh, I've seen it
That's-
already.
What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Yeah, I don't know.
isn't that the Hundreds bomb?
Maybe?
Because the Hundreds did a crossover with Garfield.
Okay.
Also.
Maybe
What the fuck?
maybe that's the case, but
Yeah, they did limited edition hoodies and shirts and stuff. Garfield and the Hundreds.
okay. Well, maybe that's a
Still, I
more benign explanation.
I want some of those stickers.
Isn't it weird how Garfield is always like permanently, somehow ironically in vogue? Like we're always going to be talking about Garfield.
I went a long time without talking about Garfield, only to realize that I still knew a ton about Garfield,
Sure.
and I'm not ashamed about that anymore.
I think Garfield without Garfield brought it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That made it cool again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And if you've never seen Garfield without Garfield, I highly recommend you Google it and check it out because it is quite miraculous.
I saw somebody saying that Jim Davis is into that thing.
I would be if I were Jim Davis.
Like approves of
Did
it
you
or
ever see
something?
the really, really fucked up dark Garfield that Jim Davis did? It was a special spread, and Garfield basically had an existential nightmare that was extremely weird. I think if you Google Garfield nightmare, it will probably come right up. And he woke up one day in an empty house. And I thought it was a parody, but it was an actual real Jim Davis Garfield cartoon that went out via, King Features Syndicate or whatever. It was in all the Sunday papers. You know how on the Sunday you get the bigger one?
Yep.
It's the more of a story. More of a story. You know what I mean? And it was Garfield woke up in an empty... you know it wasn't the Sunday one. It ran across... It was the whole week. It was like a 5-day thing. And he woke up in an empty house. And he was like, hello, John, where are you? But there's no one here, Garfield.
Fucked up.
No one but you. And it was like
my
this,
God.
and he was like caught in this endless. It was like he was doomed to wake up in this empty. And it was like the house. It turned out the house had been abandoned for years.
Whoa.
And it was this really fucked up, creepy existential nightmare. And there was no. I don't think there was a happy ending. It was just like he was trapped in this horrible. No, I think at the end he
There's no
finally
final panel of him
No, I
waking
think
up.
at the end he finally woke up from
Yeah.
the nightmare and like he gave John a hug. It was like the first time he'd ever showed John any affection. But it was
I'm
just
sure
really,
he says something snide after it too.
yeah, it's like fuck you, where's my lasagna or whatever. But I highly, if you're into Garfield and like Garfield lore, and who isn't,
Everyone at this table is. I
Yeah.
can tell you
I
that.
highly
Yeah.
recommend googling Garfield without Garfield, and I'm sure Garfield Nightmare will get you there as well, and you'll see some fucked up shit.
We've had a couple of Garfield nightmares of our own on those streams.
Oh yeah, I've watched some of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Boy.
Are there any Garfield games currently in development?
There's
can
always
hope.
one.
That's what I'm saying. Garfield
Well, they're
is
still
never,
supporting Garfield
never
Go.
not in vogue.
Are they still okay?
I saw that there was an update
Oh,
to
that's
Garfield
right, because there's
Go.
going to be a Pokemon Go game, right? For
Oh
Garfield.
yeah, it's
It's
happening.
out. Yeah, that came out last
Came
year.
out last E3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Let me see if I can turn up anything real fast.
Speaking of valuable franchises, can you imagine how much money Jim Davis must be sitting
Oh,
on?
no,
seriously,
yeah,
It was a lot.
everything we read during those streams said somewhere between 800 million and $1 billion a year.
Because like
That's
Vice just did
crazy.
an article about him when they went
Yeah.
and like talked
For
to
the
him.
anniversary.
Yeah.
Because
Which is why the Hundreds
it's
did that
still
thing. It
in
was anniversary.
syndication.
Yeah.
Like you pick up the funny
Yeah.
pages on a Sunday, and he's right there.
There's
it's
still
the
some team of
merchandise.
people cranking out a Garfield every day.
It's amazing.
It's frightening.
Yep, it's terrifying. Okay, that's it for emails. Bombcast@giantbomb.com.
Ba-dum-bum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy coming
Where
on.
can, where can people find you on the internet? What's the plug? What's the Gary Whitta like? What's
Give it to us.
Twitter is the easiest way to find me, so just at Gary Whitta, at GaryWhitta, and that's where I kind of do all my shameless self-promotion. So if you just follow my Twitter account, or you could just Google Gary Whitta Twitter and it'll come right up. I really wanted Twitter with a T. I really wanted TWHITTA. I thought would have been a great handle, but some motherfucker's sitting on it and I can't get it. There's no tweets on it. It's just sitting. It's just like someone's camping on it.
You think there's another Whitta out there that had the same idea?
I know there are other Whittas out there. I try to avoid them, but yeah, Terrence Whitta or Trevor Whitta or somebody is so it's really annoying because I would make such great use of it, and it's sitting there. It's 0 tweets, 0 followers, 0 following. It's just an egg account. It annoys me. If you are TWHIT, if you're out there, come talk to me because I want to have a conversation.
It'll be friendly, we promise. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. After show coming up next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Mom.
There you go.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Happy birthday to multiple parents in the room, apparently. That's good stuff.
Are we related?
Oh my
God. Yikes. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to sort that stuff out. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Support for today's show comes to you in part from Starbucks Double Shot. Starbucks Double Shot starts with bold Starbucks coffee and is blended with milk for a smooth, creamy, delicious flavor. And then it's enhanced with ginseng, guarana, and B vitamins. Hey, you're sharper when you've got more energy. Starbucks Double Shot, it's energy to do things you actually do. Find it in your local convenience store.